Why do you hang around with the worst crowd, the worst crowd? It's gonna hurt me, 'cause you're with the worst. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Third Man In. This is episode number, I think, 36 of Third Man In. I know it's been a couple weeks. I'll explain all that stuff. It's Mike Hickey. I'm joined today by...
It's Chuck.
TR.
Oh, I just called myself Chuck. I don't do that.
I think that's one of the first times.
Yeah.
TR's not with us today, and... he's just taking some time off.
He's with us. He hasn't left this world.
No. I mean, he's not with us in the room today. TR's taking a little bit of time off. If you guys follow him on Instagram or Twitter, you know he had some stuff happen this week, and he just wants to kind of take some time off, focus on some stuff. So he's not around this week. So yeah, I guess. Hopefully he'll be back soon. We just started Tales with TR too, which you can check out on the Hockey Podcast Network, which is Terry and a guest. I produced that show, so I was around when they recorded last week. First episode's up now, so go check it out. And that's also something that was going to be a little bit more infrequent anyway, so hopefully the schedule with that won't get too bumped up. But in the meantime, me and Chuck are going to keep going with this and get back, because it's been a bit.
It feels like it's been a couple of weeks since I heard that music, actually. It feels the last couple of episodes we've had have been so jam-packed. We didn't really get to talk about much of the NHL. We're at the quarter mark of the season now, and it feels like we've barely scratched the surface of what's been going on.
I know. So if anybody has been wondering what's up, we posted about it on the Twitter. I don't know if we did it on Instagram or Facebook, but I had an issue with the house.
We're in a different room here too.
Yeah. So you might also hear my dog barking, because Sam's wandering the house as opposed to like being upstairs from us. But I had an issue with some plumbing in my house that affected, the whole basement. There's some water damage. We were dealing with insurance stuff.
Say the joke. Say the joke.
I was just saying it's the first, I don't like the term "my basement is flooded" when it's not a euphemism.
Mike's been dealing with a flooded basement.
I know, and it's not nearly as much fun as
I shouldn't be laughing this much. I can't imagine the stress you're under.
It sucks. And we were dealing with insurance and stuff, and we're trying to get it all worked out. So it looks like we're good to some degree regarding the insurance with everything, which is nice. We still have a lot of the other. It's not going to cover kind of the whole basement, but because the damage was. It's kind of a messed up situation. Hopefully it'll all be resolved and we'll be back downstairs soon. But for now, we're up in my dining room, which is my makeshift office / $10 studio. And we're plugging away here, and we got a lot to talk about.
Really creepy clown here.
That's Pollyanna, the dancing clown.
That was absolutely mortifying.
That was a couple years ago. I was making a movie, and it was like part of a program. And there was another group that made a film a week before us, and they had gotten that as part of their art deck, and it got left behind because everyone thought it was creepy, and I took it.
I can imagine.
I
wouldn't want that in my home. I'd be afraid it would kill me at night.
Yeah,
anyway, back to the NHL.
Because a lot has happened.
A lot has happened. So what do you want to kick it off with? We made a list before we started recording because we get carried away.
Much stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you wanted to get started with the Isles, and I pointed out to you that somebody chirped you on Twitter about being a buzzkill about the Isles, and I don't want you to talk about it because it's going to seem like pandering to them. But
okay, I didn't see the chirp, but Mike read it to me a second ago, and apparently I need to show a little respect.
Yeah. And honestly, everybody should. The Isles are having a hell of a fucking year.
They are. They really are. I work with an Islanders fan. Is one of the best dudes in my office. Is one of the old Mike Bossy guys. He was an Islanders fan.
If you're an Isles fan, aren't you though?
Well, I mean, I
don't think they make new Islanders fans.
Mike, a little respect. They used to have, they had a pretty good guy, and he left, and now that's. Whoops. No, anyway, they're on a hell of a run. What is it? They've got points in 15 games in a row?
I think it's 16. I think it's a franchise record. They've got points in 16.
That's insanity. So the one thing I wanted to touch on the Islanders is probably one of my favorite quotes I've read all season long is everyone's like, oh, well, and this was when the point streak was at like 6. Mm-hmm. Everyone was like, whoa, what's gotten into the Islanders? What's going on? And one of their role players, they didn't name who the player was in the quote, but it's like, we've bought into a team mantra that bricklayers don't paint the ceilings.
Yeah.
And I was like, shit, everybody knows the role. Everybody's pulling on the rope. Everybody's going. Barry Trotz is there on the bench with a hunk of chew in his mouth all the time. I don't know if anybody noticed that?
I haven't. No.
The dude still chews on the bench. Like
great.
it's 2019 and he's still got a lip pad. And it's a mountain too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's great. But the win streak is currently at 5. They are 9-0-1 in their last 10. Their current record is 16-3-1.
Here's the thing: what I think that win streak is more important than what that point streak is more important than a lot of people probably think it is. Yeah, it's impressive and all that, but they're beating the teams. And they're finding a way to beat the teams they need to beat, and that's the division rivals.
Yeah.
They've played the Penguins, 3 times in the last month, and they've won every time.
Yeah.
Even when they've been down and they've found a way to chip a goal in and put it to overtime and win it overtime. Like, they're winning the division rivals every time. It seems like they come out on top.
They are currently in their division, because I've got the stats in front of me.
Yeah.
In their division, they are currently 3 points behind the Capitals.
Yep.
And 5 points ahead of the Sens, and they have 4 games in hand on the Caps and 3 games in hand on the Senators. They've only played 20 games so far. And they've got 33 points in 20, which is just impeccable.
And back to that, guys, this is a team that plays out of 2 buildings. Can you imagine? This is the one thing that I always keep going back to.
They play 82 road games a year, basically.
Yeah, when you play out of 2 buildings, you kind of don't have a home dressing room. Like somebody might be like, well, what does this guy know? He doesn't play hockey and all that stuff. Oh, well, I do know. Look, if you're shuffling in between 2 buildings and stuff like that, imagine if you're on the road somewhere. Like literally on the road and you're going into Colorado's building. And you play in that building twice a season, or if it's in your own division, you're going on the road and you're playing in Washington's building. You're familiar with that room, but if you're shuffling in between 2 buildings all of the time like they are, and I know it's not all the time, it's not like game number 2 at home and number 3 at home are going to be different, but it's fairly frequently that you see that they're at Nassau and then they're at Barclays Center and then they're at Nassau.
Nassau?
Yeah.
Nassau Coliseum.
Oh yeah, Nassau is the recording studio down in the Bahamas.
Also NASA.
Is it? Oh.
Nassau, Bahamas. It's a place.
Oh,
I've been there.
All right. Well, I've been reading it wrong all my life. 30 years.
There is a U. It's spelled with a U, but it's pronounced Nassau.
All right, Nassau.
Have you seriously not?
Always been called. Yeah. Well, that's it. A lot of stuff will
Show
surprise
some
me.
respect. And we're kidding, of course.
Yeah, we are
anybody who's engaging with us on Twitter and stuff.
We are joking. I did not mean to disrespect the New York Islanders. It does rub off how I work with an Islanders fan, and I give them the gears all the time. I have to. It's the only way you can survive when they're on a win streak like that.
Yeah, I mean they're second overall in the league right now, tied in points with the Bruins. But again, the Bruins have 2 games on them, 2 games up on them. So
I like how you segued there. I know where you're going next.
Right now, it's the Washington Capitals.
Yeah.
Have 36 points, and then tied with 33 points are the New York Islanders, the Boston Bruins, and the St. Louis Blues. And 2 of those teams played in the Cup final last year.
Speaking of the Blues, you see those jerseys on Wednesday night? Oh, man.
The last time I saw one of those was Game 5, you dick. But yeah, let's use this as a segue to get talking about my Bruins, because, oh boy, what a team they are this year. I like
are both Vladios, so I wanted to talk about the Bruins. I brought up the Bruins when we were doing up this list here. I wanted to talk about the Bruins for this purpose. What are Marchand and Pastrnak at right now? Pasternak's got 20 or 21?
20 goals in 22 games.
That is disgusting.
That's
and Marchand is probably hovering around 18 right now.
I'll let you know for sure.
Maybe 16.
He has got 15 goals.
Okay.
22 assists for 37 points. So he is in points. Why did that all go away? It all went away. I tried I ranked it the wrong way.
Mike's first day with the computer, folks.
Yeah, in points, he's 3rd overall in the NHL. Yeah. Behind McDavid and Draisaitl.
Yeah, okay, and that's what I wanted to get to here. So everybody, I follow a couple of the those like hockey meme pages. Yeah. The most famous one is probably like Bar Down. They do their own comics and stuff like that. Yeah. But I follow a handful of them on Instagram. I think they're good fun. And there's always name the dynamic duo. And you've got Sid and Malkin, and you've got they'll probably spit out like Marner and Tavares or Matthews and Nylander or something, and they'll always spit Draisaitl and McDavid out. Yeah. But the one thing that I never see, like, and you got to swipe to flash the slides, and the one thing, like, sometimes they just kind of omit Pastrnak and Marchand.
And right now they are 3rd and 5th in the league
And
in points.
I think it's because everybody hates Brad Marchand.
Totally.
But however, I think there's a chance here for, if they stay healthy, for these two guys to get 50. And I was like, when's the last time two players got 50 on the same on the same line? Well, the same team. I didn't even go the same line. Yager and Mario in 96 both got 60. So
didn't McDavid and Draisaitl do it last year?
Did they both get 50?
I don't remember.
I don't think Draisaitl got 50.
I think. Well, I'm gonna check. But he if he didn't get 50 last year, he came damn.
I think he
close.
came close, but close is not good when it comes to 50 goals.
No,
people tell you Phil Kessel's
he got 50 last year.
Oh, did he? And McDavid did too?
I believe so. I'm gonna confirm that. But
Jesus,
yeah.
how did I miss that?
I don't know. You weren't really doing much about hockey last year.
Well,
no, McDavid only got 41.
yeah, there it is. See, I looked this up, and somebody helped me because they were like, well, Mario and Yager 96, and I was like, Jesus, do you have to go all the way back there? And 50 goals for a long time in the NHL, people weren't scoring 50 fucking goals.
Well, I mean, people are talking about I saw Tim and Sid yesterday talking about McDavid's production over the last. McDavid has 44. They both have 44 points. Yeah. They both have exactly 24 games played, 16 goals, 28 assists for 44 points. And that's two guys on that team, and that is just bonkers
to me. I think that if I were going to bet on two guys having 50 this year, I'm going to bet Pasternak and Marchand before McDavid and Draisaitl.
Really?
I'm going to take that bet every time. The Bruins just, again, like if it's not when it comes to the goals on that team, if it's not one guy, it's the other. You can bank on at least two a night from either two from Pasternak or two from Marchand or 1 and 1 each. And I'm not saying McDavid or Draisaitl will take a night off. I'm just, I'm just saying if I'm putting down $20 on a team having 250 goal scorers in the modern NHL, it's going to be those guys. If I'm betting on the modern record of 128, which is Kucherov, the points, well, then I'm going to lean over towards the Edmonton Oilers side and say, okay, well, I'm going to take McDavid on that.
Yeah, one of those two guys is going to.
Yeah, I think if the Bruins stay, if those two guys play, I don't expect them.
And you know what the messed up part about this is?
I don't expect them to play 82 games, but if they play, 78 games and they take a little bit of time off.
But here's what's more impressive to me is that Draisaitl and McDavid are both centers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like they're not playing on a line together and they're putting up those kinds of points.
That's true. But
the Bruins are getting that production out of one line. Whereas that's your top six.
This is Edmonton,
are anchored by each of those two guys.
Edmonton has a absolute, you've always got the stars in Edmonton kind of, in modern Edmonton, I'm not going to go back to the Gretzky era, but you've got one fella on a line doing the heaviest of heavy lifting.
Yeah. But at the same time, because they've got it out of two lines this year, that's why the Edmonton Oilers are currently first in the Pacific with 3 points up on Arizona. With a 14-7-3 record. Like they're and Tippett is a guy who has proven in the past that he can make a struggling team find itself. And if you have both those guys that are just on fire as your top, like anchoring your top six, you're golden.
Well, one thing I haven't noticed this year from a lot of people, this time last year, it was always the big. Always the big joke. It was like, oh, geez, McDavid looks like he's lifeless. I remember there's a mannequin in Canadian Tire that was modeled to look like him, but you're not going to get, a mannequin's always going to have dead eyes because it's not alive. How much, like the turnaround for these guys must be something. Must be something really, like being able to breathe, I guess, because there was a lot of stuff at the end of the year. Obviously, the year of the Oilers had last year did not go anywhere near what they wanted it to. Then at the very end of the year, he smashes his fucking leg. Like, without having like a cauldron and a cackle, you can't get more cursed than that.
Yeah.
And to turn it around like that and have them be actually, I don't want to say a force, but a threat.
But in the last 10, I saw a thing where they talked, I saw a post the other day that was teams' records in the decade. Because we've now closed out the, from 2010 to 2019, there were 10 playoffs. And of that, the Edmonton Oilers made 1.
Wow, that's pretty tough. There's got to be a team that's made less than them.
No, everybody's made it at least once.
At least once. Florida's the other one that only made 1.
I think there was one more besides
Florida, and probably Florida. No. Well, it depends on what you're counting. The Atlanta Thrashers, because they had 1 year there.
It might have been the Thrashers. Actually,
Yeah.
it might have been. I'm not sure. I can't remember.
That carries over into Winnipeg's.
Yeah, no,
territory.
I don't think that was what they counted.
Arizona's probably only got one.
My favorite was how Vegas Golden Knights have 2. I thought that was all right.
Do they include Seattle?
No, because Seattle won't start playing.
No,
for
I know.
But while we're on the Pacific, let's talk about those Flames, because that was also on our list.
Yeah, that was on our list. So obviously, all eyes. It feels like we've spent a lot of time talking about the Flames this year, but only about Milan Lucic.
No, like we've talked a lot about Lucic. Not nearly enough about
the
Kachuk.
Flames. Yeah, well,
you know.
Kachuk. Well, there was one thing I read, and I hate seeing, like, obviously I hate seeing any Canadian team kind of in a slump like this, but I hate seeing them in a slump and like everything's kind of, there's two fists punching one another. A bunch of people I follow on Twitter, I hate saying everyone, but a bunch of people I follow on Twitter are like, they got to get Johnny Gaudreau out of town. And I'm like, no,
they don't.
No. They definitely don't. And then
he's minus 11.
Well,
but like, isn't everybody on that team?
Well, exactly. Here's the other thing. Like, and then there's a case. Now, I'm not a huge stats guy or a huge analytical guy. I think there's a case to be had for that stuff. I'll be frank, I'm fucking bad at math and I just don't understand it. That's it for me. I'm not like, it's all eye test or nothing. I'm just really bad at math and I don't understand it. But then there's the other side. It's like the Flames are fine. They've never been better. It's just a PDO regression, which again, it's a metric of something. I don't know what it understands. It's a lot to do with shooting percentage. And then there's another camp of people saying, well, they've got to fire their coach. I don't think it's any of that. I think this team kind of needs a small roster tinker. I think a defenseman could get moved for a forward, and a forward could get moved to somewhere like Buffalo for another defenseman.
Yeah,
I think that's the move. I don't want to see them trade a guy like Travis Hamonic is the guy I've got.
I think they really need I think they just need a guy who's gonna come in and just kind of plug away and have some leadership. Like they really could use. I don't know who's a good example. They could really use like a James Neal type.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, I see what you did there.
Yeah, I see what I did.
Well,
no,
here's
the
James
problem.
Neal is the guy that he had to get out of town because of the coach.
I know.
And then a lot of people of those they need to fire the coach thing are bringing that back up. In my opinion,
I think the reason the Flames are doing as bad as they are is because right now, and I know a lot of people don't like this stat anymore because we've moved beyond it, but right now the Flames have 5 guys whose minus is in the double digits.
Okay.
They have 4 guys who are in the positive.
Okay, I'll say this: the plus minus is not one that I'm favorable for, but I'll say this: Mike Smith has not played very well.
Well, he doesn't play for that team.
Mike Smith
does not play for that team. It's Dave Rittich and Cam Talbot. Mike Smith plays for the Edmonton Oilers now.
Oh yeah, shit, they moved him.
Yeah.
Okay, well, who's the guy that's getting most of the starts there? What's
Rittich,
the save percentage?
Rittich.
The save percentage is probably in the low 8s. It's probably like 8.6.
No, 909 for Rittich and 893 for Talbot.
Okay,
but the goals against are up around 3 for both of them. That's the thing is the goals against is like up around 3, and
what Flames games I've seen are usually on Saturdays when it's the late game, and I've seen a lot of flutters, a lot of softies go by, and it's probably Rittich now that I'm thinking about it. I don't really know if it's the guys in front of them. Again, if I think before they fire their coach, they're going to kind of make a trade. They're going to get a guy. You could probably get a fair bit for a fellow like Travis Hamonic on the market right now. They're going to get a forward. Maybe a guy I always thought would have fit over there was someone like Brian Boyle.
Yeah, I can
Brian
see
Boyle is kind of on the market. I think he just signed a deal. Another guy that Nashville is looking to get going right now. They recently scratched Kyle Turris. He's probably going to cost you more than a Travis Hamonic, but he's another guy that I can see. But also, when you trade a defenseman, you've got to kind of let a guy go to get a defenseman. I think Buffalo has an absolute fucking surplus there of great defensemen that they're going to move. Yeah. And I think you're going to see like before they trade their coach, they're going to go trade their coach. Jesus Christ! Before they fire their coach, I think they're going to go to the trade route. And I also think that the Flames will make the playoffs.
I think they will.
Yeah, I think they'll make the playoffs.
I think they are likely to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right now, they are out considerably, but not really. Like when it comes to it, they're 3 points back of Vegas right now.
That's
I think
a tough division, though. I don't know who sits.
Well, right now,
A lot of slow
right now
starts,
your
too.
Pacific. Right now your Pacific is Edmonton, Arizona, Vancouver are your 3 in for the Pacific.
Oh yeah.
And so I would
I got 2 guys coming out there. I got Vancouver and Arizona coming out.
I think there's a chance that one of those 2 teams will get in. Will get into the playoffs, whether or not it's as a Pacific, is like the divisional seed or the wild card remains to be seen. But I don't think, and I could be wrong, but I don't think Arizona and Vancouver, based on what I've seen from those teams in the last couple of years, I mean, who's to say fucking Edmonton's in first place in the division? So
I think Edmonton's going to get in there kind of with ease. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised.
I think Edmonton's on track for like we got it right year. You know,
I think the Oilers are they're just gonna kind of stroll in. Literally,
they went out in the offseason and they got themselves with James Neal type.
How would he get
That guy's the real deal.
Well, I think
Where's he?
he's
at
gonna
now?
hit 20. So you take any team that missed the playoffs last year and add 20 goals.
Yeah.
That's he's going to hit 20. They've added a 20 goal scorer.
He's got 13
Yeah.
now.
Oh, okay. So he's probably going to hit
He might hit
30. So yeah, again, if you go out, and on all it cost him was Milan Lucic. So it's not like they traded away 15 goals for 30 goals. They traded away.
But you know what they did? Because Neal has. Right now, he's going for the Cy Young. He's got 13 goals, 3 assists, minus 12.
Fuck it, let him. Oh wow, yeah.
Man.
Yeah, listen, you can't get mad at a guy who has got 13 goals.
No, you can't.
How many of them are game winners?
A lot.
Gotta think 6 of them are.
Well, I think he got like 6 of them in one fucking game, didn't he? Like
that was 4.
Jesus, like
Yeah, but anyhow,
man.
I think that they're gonna kind of. They're gonna waltz into the playoffs this year, which is nice for Oilers fans. Really nice. I would fucking love to see a first round matchup of the Flames and the Oilers.
Oh, of course you would. Like, I mean, that's the dream, right?
Actually, no, I'm lying.
No,
I would love to see a second round matchup.
I would love to see a third round matchup, but I don't think it's possible.
I want to see him in the finals.
Yeah. I mean, you know what? I'm not totally opposed to that because there was Sean McIndoe did a breakdown last year, I think it was, about a way to reseed the playoffs.
I don't want it. I've read it. I don't want it.
I want it. I hate the current playoff format.
Well,
so much.
do I. But I do. I think it needs to remain East versus West, and I'll tell you why. And it's unbelievably selfish of me. Late night. I don't expect these. So if it's 2 West teams, I don't expect them to do fucking the 5 p.m. games. But late nights, man.
Yeah, but I mean, like even when it's Vegas, like when Vegas or Vegas was probably what they
were the latest time zone recently in the finals.
Yeah, and those games were still watchable.
When they were in Vegas, they were starting to like 11. Oh, late nights, man. I got up at 6, man.
You are a buzzkill.
I got up at 6.
A
lot of people ask me, they're like, Jesus, how do you watch like so much? How do you watch the late night hockey? And I'm like, oh, I cheat. I watch it the next day on the app. Like they're like, well, why do you watch a game? You know, the score already exists.
I like the NHL on 30. I like not as much as I like Jays on 30. Like baseball on 30, the compressed games you can watch the next day are great.
Oh yeah,
I swear by them. I mean, it's really hard to watch, but I mean,
you're missing that kind of oomph to it, where you're kind of get invested in something and your heart rate gets up, and if it's Jays in 30, you get hurt.
No, but with baseball is much more of a set action. You know, like in a hockey game, the action is just much more spread out. You're moving around, things are happening kind of all the time. In baseball, you are tied to when the pitcher throws the ball, and so a compressed game showing you the action of action pitch of an at bat is I think a great way to watch 162 games.
Well, yeah, baseball's a really long schedule. What's the most ball games you've watched in a year?
In a year?
Yeah,
I've never tracked.
You don't track your watches?
No.
Oh, I try. Maybe I'm the only one that does this.
I think you're weird.
I
think it comes down to it, and you're a weird guy who tracks out the number of games you watch.
Yeah, I track my watches every year. I have I'm the only person I have a paper calendar that I write game notes on. And this is funny. I couldn't figure out why. So Mike's making a face here. So in my office, I have a calendar. I have game notes. It's all literally 1 or 2 word notes, and it's just the Leaf schedule. And I put a tick there if I ran that day, because I'm trying to run at least 5K every game day this season. So I put a tick mark if I run there, and then I make a note, and then of course the L for a Larry or the W for a Walrus, and I'll make a few notes. If some guy had a hat trick, I'll make a note of that. If it's a game coming up and Cadre, so we're playing Cadre for the first time, so written on my calendar it's late because they're starting at 9, so there's a late Cadre, and I've got a tick mark there. But I had a giant, I couldn't figure out why I'd done this, so I write out the games of the month at the start of the month, and I had a giant red circle on the Phoenix game this week, and I wrote last on it, and I couldn't, and I scribbled it, so I thought I wrote late, but I wrote last, and there was a giant red circle around the 21st. And I couldn't, and I also got my winter tires put on that day, so I thought maybe I wrote late because I'm going to be in late. I got to get my tires put on and all of that stuff. And then what it was I told my buddy who's the Islanders fan that it was going to be Mike Babcock's last game.
So you said, when did you write that down?
I wrote it down. I did up the schedule when I got back from Montreal. So I was always a toe in the water on Fire Mike. I was always a toe in the water. You could go back to when we got put out. North End Rick on Twitter, who follows the show, friend of the show, we chat back and forth, and he asked, does Babcock move the needle for you? I think is what he said. I was always kind of a toe in the water on it. I knew it was going to have to happen. Yeah. But when I was in Montreal and watched that game, I was like, these guys don't want to play for that guy.
Yeah.
It was pretty painful, and a lot of people have a lot of takes on that. The only thing I can tell you is that Sidney Crosby's done it, and in my opinion, I am a self-proclaimed and will always be a Sidney Crosby stan. If Sidney Crosby thinks, all right, this team has to quit on a coach, that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, but here's my
so
thing.
To answer your question the long way around, I did it probably like
beginning of the month.
October 29th, the Halloween area. When I got back from Montreal, I wrote them all out.
Which is scarily close to accuracy. But I
gave him 10 games. That's all I gave.
No,
him.
but I mean the other thing was like it was the day before. Like he was in Arizona.
Yeah.
So
I was pretty close. Like I couldn't figure it out until the big circle gave it away, and I was like, shit, I thought that was going to be his last game.
Yeah, and he did one less.
He did one less.
And I have thoughts on this. I'm a Bruins fan, but obviously between talking about this and then just the inundation of being in Canada and Canadian media and Twitter being all it is, you get kind of bombarded with Leaf stuff. I've got thoughts on it as well. And my thoughts are that, for one, I'm happy for the Leafs that he's gone, because you could see a different vibe in that. In I watched the blueprint clip they showed of post game, the way they played. I mean, the way when what's the kid's name that scored his first?
Tyson Barrie.
No, not Barrie.
Nick Pierre Evgal. So I call him Pierre Evangali because of Catch Me If You Can. Frank William Evangali.
But I think Dangle posted on Twitter like the clip of the bench reaction, and it's before he fell.
Yeah.
But you can see Spezza, who at this point, like Tyson Barrie scored his first of the year. Pierre Evgal scores his first of his career /year.
See the neck on that guy?
No, but so you see these two guys get the first two goals to put the Leafs up 2-0, and Jason Spezza is cracking up laughing on the bench because they were all so fuck Babcock. Like, I've never seen a team when a coach gets fired mid-season, a team so openly relieved about it.
That's what I wanted to talk about. So,
like, none of them are holding back on like you throwing around terms like, well, what's the difference? Freedom. Like,
my dad is actually kind of against this. I was at his house when he got fired, helping him get settled in and stuff. So when he got fired, I was very excited and all this stuff. And he said, well, he understood. He's like, they weren't playing for him. That's all he kind of said. They weren't playing for him. But then when all the quotes came out, my dad's like, usually he's like, as far as I've watched, and he's kind of fallen away from hockey. He complains all the time that there's too many teams and the players move around too much. That's fine. Right. But he said, usually he said it was always the same. He said the last kind of big coach to get fired was Buddy in Chicago, and he said even he said even then it's like the players gave the kind of lip service of hate to see him go, but the cliches, and he's like, they're not even doing that in Toronto. He said they're having their own kind of party here because the guy listen. I'm not going to be the first guy to say I know what it's like to play under this guy. He's got a lot of critics going back to a couple of guests on the show were underneath Mike Babcock, and
I mean we haven't had Mike Commodore on yet, but I really want to. But another thing about this whole Babcock situation is like. Babcock, other than all his successes, I don't feel are at his feet in any way. You know, I feel like taking the Ducks to the final his first year as a coach set a precedent for how people perceive him.
Fair, and
I think that was Jaguar got hot, and they rode that through. I don't think he outcoached anybody to get them. He squeaked them into the playoffs, and Jaguar got hot.
Speaking of Jaguar, the jersey that he wore that season, not the playoffs, but that season, that Ducks jersey, that Mighty Ducks jersey, that was framed sitting in a bar in Halifax.
That's pretty cool.
He played for the Mooseheads there.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Yeah,
great jerseys.
But anyway, they are. But and then his success with Detroit came from them being the Detroit Red Wings. They still had a number of incredible guys.
Yeah.
And then all of his international success comes when teams only have to put up with him for 3 weeks at a time.
Well,
he gets an all-star team that I could probably win with, and they only have to deal with him for 3-4 weeks at a time.
Glad you brought up with the 3 week at a time thing. Yeah, that's probably some of it.
You can put your head down and put up with a lot for 3 weeks if it means winning an Olympic gold medal. One of my favorite quotes,
and it was either Chris Johnson or Elliot Friedman had tweeted it out. So one of those guys tweeted it out, and it was kind of like, I think one of the players who wished to, and some guys didn't even wish to remain anonymous. Like some guys literally dunked on the guy. Grandma Doobie dunked on the guy.
Oh man!
But anyway, I think one of the players or somebody had said, "Look, Mike is a hell of a truck driver, but you don't hand the keys to a Ferrari to a hell of a truck driver."
Right.
And, I thought, okay, yeah, this definitely is, and you could tell from, I've been complaining about it at the start of the year, he did not agree with the GM. It came out after, and I'll get to that, because a lot of people were in my mentions about Dubas. I'm a big Kyle Dubas guy.
I'll talk to you about Dubas now in a second, too. I have a thing I want to say about
Okay, so anyhow, he didn't agree with the team he built, and he was always throwing monkey wrenches at it. And he just didn't want to progress. He wanted to hold Barry on that top anchor spot. He didn't want to roll 4 scoring lines. He didn't want to activate the D, and that's kind of what did him in. And I guess the players wanted to do that. Tyson Barry himself said, we got a whole lot looser. And it's like, geez, they're really dancing on this guy's pink slip here.
Yeah.
But that one was the one. It's like, you know what? It's the same thing it draws back to the Islanders, honestly. Bricklayers don't paint the ceiling.
Yeah.
Mike wasn't really working with a skill set or a team that people were going to buy into. And once you don't buy into something, well, you've got to move along. One of my favorite things, just before we kind of take a pause from the Babcock stuff here, because I think we got a guy calling in who's going to want to.
We're not going to pause. We're going to bring in our
double
guest
down.
Matt. We're going to bring in our guest Matt Wright, who's a fantastic comic who's on the road right now with Danny Bhoy. He was in Toronto the other night.
I think he's in Kingston now, but we'll find out.
But we'll find out. But I still have to keep talking about this for a second.
But I want one more thing. I watched the game on Wednesday. My favorite thing that I saw is when I watch a game, I focus on the players, I focus on the bench and all that stuff. And one of my favorite things is guys who have played under Keefe were constantly so Keefe is behind the bench, but guys who were playing under Keefe before were constantly talking to fellas who haven't. So you had Dermott talking to Muzzin about stuff when the arms were going. You had Mango Johnson talking to Jason Spezza.
Yeah.
You had William talking to the guys because they all played under this guy.
They know his system.
Well,
I even just seeing the collapse, right? Like they were playing low defensively and in a way they hadn't before. But what it reminded me of is, have you ever seen we often come back to baseball movies for some fucking reason on this show, but have you ever seen the movie Little Big League?
No, I haven't.
Little Big League is about a kid who's 12 years old. His grandfather dies and leaves him the Minnesota Twins.
You've told me this before, yeah.
And there's and he winds up becoming the manager of the Twins because he just grew up with baseball, knows it. Like he's a really smart kid. But like that's the whole movie is about a kid who manages the Minnesota Twins. And there's this incredible scene early in the movie where Dennis Farina plays the manager before him. Uh-huh. And Billy, the kid's name's Billy, like goes down and like tries to talk to him. He's like, I'm watching what you're doing. I really think we should be doing this. I think we should be doing this. And Farina's always just like, sure, kid.
Yeah.
And like just really being disrespectful to him. And it just you see a couple scenes of it happen through the movie. And he's just like, you know what? I think we need to do, and I think you need to let me do my job because my team. He's like, I got a better idea. And then it shows Farina angrily packing up his office. And and it just keeps running through my mind all week because I'm convinced that was what that dynamic was. It was like, so Mike, we got the team built this way. We have these kinds of guys. We have them designed to be these roles because, it says that we should do this. We have all these things. So we need you to kind of coach them for this kind of style. And Babcock's like, yeah, sure, kid. Let me do this.
And that's fair. And listen,
then to the point where it finally broke. And then Kyle Dubas got to be that guy who was just like, okay, boomer.
See,
and
the thing is, there was a Sun article came out, Dave Feschuk. I hope I'm spelling his name right. He's not the Sun, sorry, the Star.
Well, you've been saying NASA wrong. So
So anyhow, he wrote one back in it must have been September, October, just as the season hadn't quite started, but so essentially it kind of said, sources said that Dubas had him fired. Dubas had him fired in May, and Shanahan stepped in and said, no, we're not doing this. And you know what? Case to be made, give the guy, I probably would be reacting a little different. I wish they didn't give him 23 games. I wish they gave him like 18 or 15 even. But if they fired him last May, it would have been a bigger shock, but it would have been done and over with, and they could have focused at the start of the year. However, I think, and then everybody... I made a tweet, which I'm surprised never got me in trouble. It was the morning after Vegas, and I said Kyle Dubas finally gets to fire his guy. It caught fire because it was about 12 or 14 hours before he actually fired him. But everybody got in my mentions were like, actually Shanahan fired him. Dubas didn't have the guts. And then the other narrative is like, well, now Kyle's on the hot seat. Two, if you're about to fire somebody and it gets vetoed and Shanahan's like, no, we're not doing that. Well, your message to Shanahan is like, you know what? Fine. But when it happens, it's your problem. So and that's definitely what happened here. When it happens, it's your problem. That's why Brendan Shanahan flew in.
I think that made it worse because Shanahan coming in, like Babcock knows why Shanny suddenly decides to make this road trip once they're already out of town.
Yeah, well, he knew when he didn't know Shanahan was in town until he got the text to go into his hotel room, and then he said, well, then I knew. Yeah. He said, I understood. He said, and he did say, he said, you know what? A GM deserves to have his coach. Yep. That's the only thing he said. He said a GM deserves to have his coach, and I'm not Kyle's coach, which obviously everybody knew. I'm wearing my
Kale Matson?
My Kale Matson Sue Greyhound shirt. Which is obviously a little bit of a nod to one of my favorite artists, and Kyle and Keith, where they hooked up Sue Greyhounds. So anyhow, he has always been Kyle's coach, and but everyone's saying, well, Dubas is on the hot seat now. Man, maybe I think if they do make the playoffs, and it's going to be
tight now.
It's going to be tight. That's the thing. That's why I wish they only gave him 15 games as opposed to 23. But anyway, it's going to be tight. It's going to be a race. It's going to be fire wagon hockey. If they do make the playoffs, I think Dubas is safe as he could possibly be because this is one of the biggest, well, guys, I fucking told you so moments. Yeah. Because, you know what? Totally. But, like, there's always a narrative. Like, they always want something to be...
Completely.
Chaos has always got to be at arm's reach, and that's what... But I do think that, well, this is a big I told you so, and if they do manage to make the playoffs, well, Kyle is as safe as they get.
And you know what? I honestly do think they will. I really think they will make the playoffs this year.
There's still a lot of problems. Backup goaltending is a problem.
Backup goaltending is a problem, but I think that, for one, the team has kind of... I think the team has kind of shown, okay, we're ready to do it. And so now that this is done... you're able to focus on backup goal. Because, I mean, people were talking about trading Tyson Barrie last week. So there was
I don't know, you follow me. That's when I lost
There was so many different narratives about what the team should be focusing on. And so much of it just came back to, just like fire Babcock and then move on from it. And so I think that now that that's done, it's like, okay, fire Mike Babcock and now figure out the backup goaltending situation is next on that to-do list. And the other thing that I think is super interesting this week, when you talk about like how, a GM deserves his coach, I haven't heard, and I could have just missed it, I haven't seen the word interim anywhere.
No, it's not. He's got the head coach. He's got a 3-year deal. Yeah. Which is funny because Mike...
Well, he was already with the system, so I assumed it was like a carryover deal. But Babcock has a longer deal than this guy's going to... Babcock's going to be on contract for like an extra 6 months or something, right?
And a lot of people are obviously... It's been all you're going to hear about for, I'd say, another at least week until it all calms down. Mike Babcock did a lot for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Ultimately, at the end, he fell out of favor, and the team 100% gave up on him. Here's the one thing. I don't think we have seen the Toronto Maple Leafs yet this year, so I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
But I will say what Mike Babcock worked with when he first got to Toronto was what trucks.
Yeah,
that's it. Brad Boys was on the top line when Brad Boys at the end of his career.
Totally.
Yeah. So he when he came in, I remember where I was when Mike Babcock got that job. I was driving from the North Sydney Ferry. I had just done the Blue Nose Half Marathon Halifax, and it was the year they were tearing up the airport, so no flights got in for 4 or 5 days. So my brother, he's like, you know what? You were going to come over in September to lease a new car. He works at a car dealership over there. So just fucking lease it now and drive home. Yeah. And that's what I did. So I had literally the clothes on my back. Yeah. And I was over there for 2 extra days, and then I leased a car and drove straight home. Yeah. So that was when I'd be getting phone calls, because if you've ever driven from straight across Newfoundland, Port au Basque, St. John's, it gets kind of boring there in the middle. It gets kind of boring from Gander and onward for a little while. So I'd be getting phone calls, and people would be updating me on the Mike Babcock situation. Yeah. And I was just outside of Clarenville when it happened. My brother phoned me, and all I got was like, the plane left Detroit. That's on the way to Toronto. He's ours, Mike Babcock. So I remember just passing that Irving Orange store, blowing my horn. Like the whole way, I must have blown it for 5 minutes, just blowing, because it was a celebration. I mean, we talked a very, very important coach at that time, and I think he's going to go on to do some things. I don't know if they're going to be as great as it was in the early 2000s. Coming into a team that had nothing. Again, had fucking nothing.
I still maintain that, there's something to be said about him being a truck driver. But I still think that, I don't think Mike Babcock has the pedigree that people talk about Mike Babcock having. And I think that when he came in and he talked about, we're not even going to talk about making the playoffs for 3 years, and then he made the playoffs the second season or something, everybody considered that a big deal. But I don't think that Mike Babcock is half the coach that people make Mike Babcock out to be. I think that he's been somebody who held the reins on some teams that anybody could have, it was a case where the horses were leading the cart. Yeah. And just because he happened to be the guy standing on the back of the cart holding the reins, people gave him a lot of kudos and stuff for that. But when it comes down to it, if anything, with this Leafs thing, he was pulling back on the reins as opposed to just letting them go. Player, I think he even got in his head about him being a better coach than he is.
One player even brought up, he said, well, I just could never understand his obsession with winning hockey games 2-1. And when I read that, I was like, how the fuck did this guy keep that job so long? Yeah.
And that's the thing is, he was out there trying to keep it so it's only a couple goals, and that's just kind of
Can you imagine? You've got Tavares, who had 47 last year. Yeah. Matthews, Marner, Nylander. Yeah. You've got a guy like Kapanen and Johnson. I think they each hit 20 last year. Yeah. And it's like, all right, boys, got to grind them down. Got to get the 2-1 here. Got to get 2, and then shut it down. Get out of here early.
Freddie only needs the. He can get away with 1. We'll give him 1, and then he's good. Yeah. Anyway,
absolutely mad.
On that, we're gonna bring our guest on. So Matt Wright is coming up. He's a comic who's just fantastic. If you haven't checked out his stuff, we'll talk about all that very shortly. But we're gonna take a word from our sponsor, and then we'll be right back with Mr. Matt Wright right here on Third Man In. Brought to you by Head Check Health.
Concussions are serious business. Concussions and post-concussion syndrome had a huge effect on my career. Whether you're a player, a concerned parent, a coach, a risk manager, or an executive, they're a major area of concern. Head Check Health has developed software and services that improve the way concussions are assessed, tracked, and managed at all levels of sport. Their goal is to create a safer environment of play by giving better tools to the individuals responsible for documenting and assessing concussions and providing better data to administrators to make real health and safety improvements. Head Check currently works works with organizations across the country like the Canadian Junior Hockey League, BC Hockey, Rugby Ontario, the Western Lacrosse Association, and more to advance their concussion management practices. If you're interested in learning more how HeadCheck can help your team or organization, please visit headcheckhealth.com or email info@headcheckhealth.com. That's headcheckhealth.com or info@headcheckhealth.com, and tell them TR sent you.
All right. I'm going to intro our guest right now, and I'm really bad at doing the Terry thing where Terry really hypes everybody up. But our guest today is by far the funniest Canadian I have ever met, the funniest Canadian I know and have the pleasure of knowing, and easily the best person to watch a hockey game with. Everybody, welcome to the show, Matt Wright.
You're right. You're not as good at that as Terry is.
No, that's it. Well, that's why we had a
Matt,
discussion.
great to have you, buddy.
That's why we had a discussion on who's going to do it. All right, good. Matt, welcome.
I'm feeling a bit. Terry's not on the podcast today, and all of a sudden I'm on it. I feel like I'm the Tyson Berry of this podcast.
No, not even at all. It's just we've been waiting to get you on, and now obviously there's like some big Leafs news to talk about. We thought it would be a good time to bring you on, and also you got some great stuff going on to talk about. I mean, you're on the road now with Danny Bhoy, right?
Yeah. I'm just here in a hotel in Toronto. We're going to Kitchener tonight.
All right.
Kitchener Waterloo area. There you go.
And how I was in Toronto for a couple hours Thursday, and the sense of relief, it's palpable in that city right now, isn't it?
Oh man, morale seems higher, except among a certain contingent who, between Cherry and Babcock, I think probably had the worst week of their hockey lives.
And it's funny because obviously you have your new record out. Existing is exhausting, and you happen to have a bit on that we were tweeting back and forth. I was actually in Toronto on, I guess, it was Thursday night. I was out having a drink with my friend Erin, and Erin was telling me she had just gone to see your show, and she was telling me it was like really funny because like you had the whole Mike Babcock bit. And that's about Don Cherry and Mike Babcock, and you had to like preface it for the audience just to be like, I wrote this a long time ago. This is just
imagine doing that for 2 years, and it's like there was a guy named Don Cherry who had a very, very important job, and there was a guy named Mike Babcock who also had a job. Now they don't work.
Yeah, it felt like It's so strange for two reasons. First of all of a sudden, it almost felt like I was like a guy being like, "Hey, you remember going to Blockbuster Video?" But the other side of it, which is really weird, is that this doesn't have much to do with Babcock, but I mean, with the Cherry side of things, and you guys have probably heard that joke, and it is like undeniably probably my silliest joke, and none of I'm not a highly political comedian by any means.
Yeah.
And that was just pure and utter silliness for 2 years. And now all of a sudden, this silly bit I have to do, now when I bring it up, I have to like preface it for like 90 seconds about like, people are complicated and racism is bad and how are you? And like all this, like before, it was just like the silliest thing in the world. And now here we are. But now it's kind of taken on a different life, but I'm going to record it now and stop doing it because this has been the strangest ride.
I mean, yeah, I was thinking about it. It's like, oh man, like at least now it's on the record. It's something that you support on the record on this current tour. And then like once you're probably done this, because you've already done the Existing is Exhausting tour, once this part of the leg of like supporting Danny is done, like you're probably just gonna move on, right? And you can probably finally resurrect my favorite thing that you've ever done, which is the Ninja Turtles thing that I've only ever heard you do once, and I still tell people about it.
So Mike's out of a job, Don's out of a job, and Matt's out of a bit.
What's that? Sorry?
Yeah. I forgot about my Ninja Turtles. You're going to ask Mike about that so I can remember what it is.
Yeah, no, it's an incredible bit. It's like my favorite thing. Like it's still like I feel bad. I saw you do it at the Levy one night as like part of like you just hopped up for 5 minutes and did this, and I don't think I've ever laughed harder at anything in my life.
Oh wait, is that the one where it's weird that they wear masks and people wouldn't recognize them?
Well, no, it's that, but that's part of it. But it's all about Donatello.
Yeah,
and how he doesn't really seem to be into it. And it's like, we're gonna wear masks. It's like, why?
I think he had a solid.
But then he has to pick the color, and then he has to pick what weapon he's gonna use, and it's just I'm not gonna get into any more of it than that because you're gonna remember it, and you're gonna workshop, and you're gonna record it again.
I just remember it, and I'll tell it because you're audience members. Because I actually forgot the line that I remembered from that I liked, which was Donatello saying, "I'm going to take a stick," and they're like, "Oh, a stick? You sure you don't want anything else?" And he's like, "Nah, I'm good with this stick." And he's like, "You want me to sharpen the ends of it?" And he's like, "Nah."
Yeah, no, it's just I think it was Leo like being like, okay, so I'm gonna have a sword, and Raph's gonna have size, and Mike's gonna have this, and Donatello's like, man, I don't care, just give me a stick. Like,
Broom handle. I'll tell you.
Are you sure you want to wear purple? It's New York in the mid '80s. No, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had a tight 10 on the Ninja Turtles there. I don't know if it was all riffing, but
It was we've just completely gone off the rails. But we need to talk to you about Mike Dad Babcock.
We do need to talk about my dad Babcock.
Oh man,
I mean,
we just talked about it for a little bit, so I'm excited to have your perspective here.
Well, okay. Well, let me start with this: is that I don't. There is something gross that feels like about having a parade when someone loses their job, even if he makes a gajillion dollars. I mean, I understand all that, but people, I think once they get a certain amount of money, they're more concerned with pride. So I do have some type of empathy, and I do think he did a lot of life work because I don't think a lot of people talk about how shitty and messy and hopeless the Leafs were when he got there.
when he
Like,
took
that
that
year,
job, he agreed
when he took
to
that
take
job,
that
it was
job.
and he kind of he pulled that team out of the dirt quite a bit. And I actually think the most fun I had watching him was the year that he had like P.A. Parento and like Daniel Winnick, and they finished last, but the hockey was passable, and that is a problem. Like that's an issue because I could see him. You know what? If something ever faltered in like with the Islanders or something, I could see him going back there coaching a Lou team that that whole team hated the Leafs so much. That would be the greatest narrative. I would love it.
Yeah,
but I don't think they're going to make it.
I mean, they got Trotz, right? I was just going to say, they've got Trotz. They're not going anywhere.
I know, and they're never going to lose a game again. So
apparently not, right?
But I mean, I think he's a good. My point is, I think he's a good coach, but I think that Toronto needed a coach that was going to play a team that they're built to beat.
Yeah.
My favorite line I saw was, oh, sorry.
No, please go ahead.
My favorite line that I saw was like, all right, finally we're going to let the horses run. And I was like, that's a way of, and Jesus Christ, we've only seen one game, but did he let the horses run? Holy. It was that one. I mean, I'm trying not to get too far ahead of myself, but it was really, I read somebody say on Twitter, I thought this was really good. It's like Mike Babcock has a Lamborghini and insists on driving it like it's a truck. We talked about
that earlier. Yeah.
Yeah, that is,
Oh, this is good podcasting here, boys.
That's right. That's great. We are in the pockets.
Yeah, no. But,
yeah.
But I mean, it's true, right? Like he just refused to. He's just like I feel like Mike Babcock. It sort of has this like Jed Clampett thing. And hear me out because this is going to be a stretch. But when like on the Beverly Hillbillies, when they move out of the swamp and they get put in Beverly Hills and they're surrounded by all this stuff, but they just refuse to accept it and keep driving this old beater truck. They they just do all these ridiculous things to try to like make Beverly Hills adapt to their way of life, and it does. Like Mike Babcock is the Jed Clampett of hockey coaches. I'm putting that one out there.
All right, so it's 12:57 on Saturday. Something has to happen in the NHL bigger now because we've reached Mike Babcock Beverly Hillbillies comparisons. I was saying that's as high as it goes.
I was saying between like Cherry and Babcock and all the other stuff that's gone on the last few weeks. We were really only at a point where like Gary Bettman resigning is like the only story we have left in hockey to kind of blow things up any more than they have been.
Not even better, going missing.
Yeah,
Gary Bettman just goes missing.
Hello, my name is Gary. I have been missing. Ooh.
Yeah, Gary Bevan's missing posters would even get booed, I think.
my God, ripped down.
Oh, God. You know he'd be so easy to find.
Yeah, just follow the booze. Yeah.
Although it would be very funny. It would be very funny to be like, Gary, you were missing for 2.5 months. Where were you? I was perusing some documents and I lost track of time.
It's like that episode.
I love the idea that Gary Bettman, even in private conversation, always talks as if he's shouting over booze.
Yeah.
That's
That's just because that's just like how he's used to speaking, and he's like thrown off when it's not.
It's like that episode of The Simpsons where Skinner gets caught underneath a pile of files. It's like that's where Bettman was.
And if we want to bring pop culture references back into this, the Principal Skinner line that, "Oh, it's the children that are wrong, not me," is, I think, very applicable at this Leaf season.
Yeah, that's actually a good one. Did you see Grandma Doobie throwing shade on Twitter at Mike Babcock?
Yes, my God.
Ruthless.
Ruthless
woman.
I know. That woman is absolutely perfect. I don't know. My grandmother, I don't know if she was on Twitter today, if she was still alive. I would love to just see her, like, tweeting Victor from The Young and the Restless and be like, "You're some handsome man." And Kyle Dubas' grandmother is going toe-to-toe with the most irrational fans in the world. I respect it immensely.
So this is I had no idea Kyle Lewis's grandmother was on Twitter.
Oh yeah, no, she needs
Grandma
to be
Doobie.
she needs to be verified, man. They gotta get her that blue check mark.
Marietta Dubis, Grandma Doobie.
Man, she doesn't need it. She's a grown-ass woman. I don't think she gives a shit about a blue check mark. I think she is, like, fully in the pocket already. I don't think she needs it.
Go Sheldon Keefe, go! Wow, Marietta. Oh, this is great. This is like my favorite thing.
Read the full tweet.
Yeah, Toronto Maple Leafs at Maple Leafs. Great to see the Leafs are back. It was a pleasure to watch last night's game in Arizona. Go Leafs, go! Go Sheldon Keefe, go!
Boom.
There you go.
A senior citizen dropping the mic
yeah,
literally.
Wow. That's fantastic. And like, yeah, this is just great. I'm watching her, like, she retweets like all this like slight shade stuff. It's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, no, it is cloudy AF.
I love it
in the timeline of Grandma Doobie.
Oh, this is fantastic. I cannot wait to dive deeper on this. But let's take it back and actually interview Matt about being Matt and being a stand-up comedian in Canada, because I feel like that's a thing we should probably talk about.
Sure.
So we didn't do all the teams you played for, because I think it's Gander, Flyers, Pee Wee is probably top of it, if anything. Or did you?
Oh man, I played a lot of house league. I never tried out for the Gander A team. That was always a bit too intense for me. But I played on all the B teams, and I for the most part I liked it until I started getting smoked all the time. And then I was just, eventually, I was like, oh, this is leisure. And I'm just getting jacked up every game. And then there was one year I played on that team, and I played on the St. Paul Cardinals. Oh, and Hickey, you'll like this. I think we had an undefeated season and that went 2 years long that we never once lost. And then we lost to the finals to Grand Falls.
Like you should.
Ever game of ice hockey.
Proper thing.
Retired by Grand Falls.
I mean, I was retired by myself. I'm not going to give too much credit here. I retired because sticks got too expensive, and I felt bad. That's actually what happened.
And I mean, then you buy sticks, and they get squat by plows. It's terrible. But yeah, so after your illustrious career in minor hockey in Gander, you moved out here to town, and you studied business. Right? Is what happened?
Yes. Yes.
And then you disappointed your parents by becoming a stand-up comic instead.
Yes. That's since turned around, but at the time it was.
That's good. I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to hear they're feeling it now. That's good.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, I in hindsight, even my mom asked me, she's like, "Why did you do a business degree?" And then I think at the time I was just like, I heard it gets people jobs, and I had no concept of whether I wanted, like even if I wanted to do it or not. People should be giving any power to make life decisions when they're 17 years old. That is obscene.
Agreed.
No, and I completely agree with that. I also studied business in school, and yeah.
I was going to
Did
be
you?
a teacher.
Yeah, I started marketing.
Yeah, well, we're networking, baby.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's what they call it. That's how you know you're happy with your job, when you call talking networking.
Yeah, no, and like, I mean, at least you still wear suits.
Wow.
You know what though? This is my my halfway point with that. I will wear a jacket, but I will almost never wear a suit. I will always wear a blazer with jeans, and I will never do up my top button.
I think, yeah.
That's
But
good
I mean,
This is the lamest rebellion, but this is what I can offer.
That's a good look. I don't own a suit. I'm going to see if I can get to 40 without owning a suit.
oh, that's just sad, man. You're a grown man.
Am I though?
Charles, the other option, instead of waiting till 40, is stop waiting and making your friends feel bad at their wedding. Buy a suit, Charles.
Yeah.
It doesn't even need to be expensive. Of course it doesn't need to be expensive, but like just now and again. How much money do you spend on jean jacket?
I'm glad you went there, because I did go to a friend's wedding in what I call my action figure clothes, which is just a pair of black jeans, a Ship Pub t-shirt, and a jean jacket. I felt all right. They didn't thank me. They didn't thank me for the wedding gift I left, but I felt all right.
Man, that's just. I mean, I like, I'm somebody who when I was younger wore a lot of, like, the Matt Wright action figure clothes, which is like suit jacket and jeans. But yeah, man, I'm also someone who's like I'm really good at tying a necktie. Like, I can make a really nice knot really quick.
Yeah, I've seen you dressed up.
And I've seen people, like, I was on a shoot last week where I was a sound recordist. And the guy and the subject that we were interviewing, his tie was like asymmetrical. He had an asymmetrical knot. It was really bothering me. So I offered to fix it and just like did it, whipped it on, like took it off him, put it on me, whipped it, put it all over his head. And everyone's like, "That's a really nice knot." And I did it in like no time.
I'm loving
and
the
then
people,
he was just like, "You got to show me how to do that."
I'm loving the people who clicked on this podcast who saw like, "Oh wow, it's like Mike and Chuck and Matt Wright," and it's like, wow, they're talking about suits and ties.
I mean, Matt's a stylish cat. Like, you got to appreciate this stuff. And it's a big part of his identity as a professional comedian.
Are you still in a moratorium of hard pants, Matt?
Oh, well, like, this is my reality. Is like, I'll wear, in my opinion, when I'm on stage, I'm kind of at work, so I'll kind of dress up. But I'm at the point now where I bring track pants backstage with me. So I'm really wearing track pants and like a sriracha t-shirt 85% of the day, and then I get on stage. On this tour, it's like I'm doing 20 minutes a night, so like 25 minutes a night. I'm just like getting on stage wearing like nice jeans and a blazer and a tie, and people are like, "What a stylish young man!" And then I'll just roll off stage, and I'm wearing like yogurt covered track pants, and like.
Oh, not yogurt. That's the worst kind.
Oh, yes. The most easily mistakable stain.
Yeah. Oh, boy. That's...
Especially on track pants.
Oh, buddy.
I remember we watched the first game of the year, and Matt just, like, is surveying the room, and everybody's wearing jeans. And he's like, "What are you guys all doing?" He's like, "What's with the hard pants?"
But we'll... okay. I feel like we actually should talk
about
how
off
Matt.
The rails.
Yeah,
here.
we've been off the rails since before this started. But Matt, we really should talk about kind of how you got into comedy and how, because I think it's safe to say, and I know you won't say it because I know you and I know how humble and incredible you are. But I think you're probably one of the hottest rising stars in Canadian comedy right now, and it's well deserved. But I want to talk about kind of how you got there, because I mean, at a time probably 10 years ago, there wasn't really that as well known Newfoundlanders have always been for comedy. There was never really a strong stand-up scene in St. John's up until probably the last 10 years. And you kind of came through at the start of that. So, I mean, what was that kind of experience like, getting out, trying to find rooms and places to kind of get started on this?
Oh, well, there was a Yuck Yucks here at a time, and there was a guy, there was two guys in particular, George Price, who since died, who was really like taking like a lot of young people like under his wing, and Steve Coombs was running an amateur program. So it's like you could get up on that amateur week like once a week at that time. And then 2 months into me doing stand up, there became like someone started an open mic room, which I didn't even know what that was.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started, there was like 8. I think there's like 8 people doing stand up, and now I think, I mean, I don't know how active some people are, but it's more like 60 or 70, which is still minuscule as far as the scene goes, but it's quite a lot different. Like, all of us could have a dinner party and we could have everybody here who's done comedy in the city.
Yeah, I mean, it's because I think back to guys like, guys that were coming, like St. John's has always been a place that had a really strong like sketch and improv scene, but stand up itself was like, even guys like Sean Majumder, who I know you worked with a lot, guys like Johnny Harris never really got into stand up until they moved away from St. John's. Same thing with like Critch. Like, none of those guys are necessarily doing stand up in St. John's, but I know Critch and Harris both came out of sketch troops.
Yeah, and it's funny, like, so even still now, people are people have a good understanding of what sketch is, but there's a certain amount of like people are not used to seeing a stand-up show in Newfoundland still, which is that's quite all right. And like, I mean, the caliber of sketch groups that have come through, that's not a shock to me. But I don't know. I think that's getting better. People don't really talk about this much. Stand-up in general is a new art form. End of sentence. Like, not just in Newfoundland, like it's less than 100 years old.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, that's been really good. I did a tour with Sean, and like that's the nice part about everything like that is all those guys have been pretty. I hate to say this because it's a Kevin Spacey quote, but but I think it was him, and I hope it was somebody else because I do think it's nice. But he always said send the elevator back down.
Yeah,
and I think that those guys kind of have certainly done that.
Oh, jeez, I hope that's not him because that is a nice quote.
that is a good quote. Yeah, that is a good quote. Damn it.
Well, if it is him, it kind of takes on a weird double meaning.
Yeah,
Little bit, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did bringing up Kevin Spacey kill the energy of this podcast? Well, whose fault is that?
Yeah. And if you're lucky enough to do well, it's your responsibility to send the elevator back down. It is in fact a Kevin Spacey quote, apparently.
Yeah, well,
which is the worst. But I'm sure he didn't come up with it. I'm sure
you could just do the Office thing. You could do the Kevin Spacey dash Matt Wright.
Yeah, but do you ever really want to?
Yeah, you don't
want to
do that.
Google
Yeah, never
search
mind. Yeah, never mind. No, you can't do the Office thing with that one.
No. But so you start doing stand up in St. John's at the time the scene is really kind of finding its feet. Like Yuck Yucks opened, more and more locals started to try to get out and get rooms, and so that kind of happened at the same time. You were kind of learning about the process in a way that kind of the community was too. So how do you think, did that kind of prepare or did you feel like that was a disadvantage for moving forward because you were kind of learning in a way where everybody around you was too?
Well, my big advantage there is that I didn't know the difference. I just, I did not know what was normal, so there was no normal, and I think, believe it or not, that was actually very helpful. Like, I didn't know. I thought I had to be writing way more material than I was actually writing, which now serves me very well. But at the time, I was like, I was putting too much pressure on myself to come up with new stuff.
Right,
but now,
right.
I mean, like, I'm kind of conditioned for that because I thought that's always what I'd have to do. And now I just have a bunch of new material now every year because I got into that work ethic early, which is very, very lucky. But it was, it's kind of like anything. It's not like I don't know, like the film scene locally. It's kind of like, everybody kind of pitches in together and produces shows, and there's a nice energy to it. I haven't been home very much this year, especially doing stand up, but I certainly look at it very fondly. I'm talking about it like it was like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That raises my question. Your Christmas show, is there one coming to St. John's this year? Can you let us know?
No, because I did that Arts and Culture Center that tour.
Oh, okay.
So
Gotcha.
I did that
you
show
were
in the
here
fall.
very recently.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and I don't have any new stuff.
Makes sense.
Well, I mean, I do, but also, like, there's when you sign when you do it like that size of a theater, you have to sign like a radius clause and all that stuff. So.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
It was funny though. I took in that show with my wife and my mother-in-law, and
yes, I love that. Thank you.
And no, but I don't know if I told you this at the time, but like we were talking about it, and we were like, we knew that my mother-in-law was coming to town and staying with us, but it was the night of your show, and we were like, oh, we want to go see Matt, but Diane's gonna be in town, so what? And then we were both like, we're texting back and forth about like whether or not we should bring Maria's mom to your show, and we're like, Matt's a pretty mom-friendly comic,
definitely.
and that was actually, I screenshot it and was gonna send it to you, but I was just like, no, I don't want to put that in his head right before he gets on
my
stage.
folks,
But Matt is a very mom-friendly comic. Is a thing I texted my wife.
my folks loved him.
Hey man, moms are great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My folks loved him. My dad, I picked him up to watch a game a few weeks ago, and he just rolls into the car wearing a shirt with your two dogs on it. I'm like, where'd you get that? I got a kick out of that.
Oh my god!
Yeah, he just rolled in, man.
fantastic.
And I was like, where the hell did you get that? He's like, I bought it when he was in Lab City. And I was like, wow.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we had a big. Also, the fact that people are going around wearing pictures with my dog's heads on them makes me laugh
Especially
so hard.
Especially Lou, because Lou is not a dog of pedigree that anticipated this.
Oh, Lou's a Regal Beagle, man.
No, but I
Lou
mean,
is in a perennial panic attack. So if she saw her own face on a shirt, I think she would be like, "What the fuck is going on
That'd
here?"
be
Did
it.
you get that?
That'd be it. That'd be the one.
Which is my favorite thing. I think it's hilarious. But I mean I think everything you do is hilarious. So when you started though, like you said, you kind of came up through, and there was this kind of a sense of I like ignorance is the wrong word, but it's also the right word. In terms of not knowing what you were kind of supposed to be doing, or what stage of your career you were supposed to be at, or what kind of how much you were supposed to be writing, and all these things. And so what was kind of the next stage up from St. John's? Like, was it Halifax was kind of the next area where you kind of got into a scene at all? Or like, what was next for you where you kind of started to realize like, oh, maybe, I've been doing too much writing or whatever?
Oh, I mean, that's a good question. It's funny because I am a very like head in the sand type of person. And it's like, in between me being like, oh, this would be a fun way to this would be a fun hobby, to this would be a fun way to make a bit of extra money, to I don't want to ever have another job again. That was like, that did not happen quickly, but it also like, and I'm trying to get better at this. I never took a minute to be like, oh, wow, this is really cool. I was just like, oh, this happened.
Yeah.
Like getting on, just booking a couple of tours with other comedians and booking my own stuff. And like when I was at 22 for like 2.5 years, that was like a big, like, oh, right, this is something that I could probably like, Jesus, compliment, idiot. This is like something I could do as a job.
And,
like I never even really thought about it until it was already happening.
I feel like you've been touring for a while.
But that's the thing. I just want to clarify that for anybody listening who doesn't know. Matt wrote on This Hour Is 22 Minutes, which is a Canadian sketch comedy satire, like news satire show. And Matt wrote on that show for 2.5 years. So we can continue on. I just wanted to provide that context.
I blew that in the intro, didn't I? Fuck.
Yeah.
Matt, you've been on tour for a while though. It feels like when was your first tour? Because it feels like it's probably like 5-6 years ago.
Oh yeah, 5 or 6 years ago. But I've kind of been on the road on and off since August.
Yeah.
But so this has been a bit extreme. Like this is because I booked my own tour dates when I put the album out, and then I got the call to do this Danny Bhoy tour, which was 5 dates initially that turned into 20 something. So it has been a big fly by my ass type of experience, as as everything seems to be, if I'm being honest.
No, and I mean that's totally fair. But to thinking about comedy and what kind of a career in comedy entails, I just wonder, and this is my curiosity more than anything else. Like as a comic, people kind of know comedians, and there's like a way that like people know comedians from other mediums, like so people know most comics from them going on TV and doing Just for Laughs or Halifax, which you've done, like the comedy specials and that sort of thing, and then you move into acting and go to sitcoms and things like that. And I know you as a filmmaker as well, and so I just wonder for you, is that just something that and I don't want you to risk you burning any bridges from people hearing this, but the question
here we go.
No, I'm just wondering if for you is moving into stuff like television and writing for television and writing for film and trying to push that way, is that you trying to push yourself in terms of finding new mediums, or is it because those things are kind of boxes you tick as a comedian on how to make a living? Or or is it for you the most rewarding thing is to be there with a crowd?
Well, for me, I mean, stand-up is the best. There's something about stand-up that is so great that I feel very lucky in the sense that I can just write something and then I can go do stand-up, and then it's that night I'll know if it was good or not. Right. And I mean, stand-up is my favorite thing. I like to do other stuff. I mean, I like the idea of making anything that will eventually make someone who's hungover on a Sunday have a better afternoon on the couch. That's pretty well basically where all my focus kind of lays. And in terms of like filmmaking and stuff, and Mike, just because we work on a bunch of stuff together, it's fun to work with people. Yeah. So it's like as long as there's a project that I would like to be a part of, and I can, the people that you're around are happy. So I would love to do that stuff, and it just flexes a different muscle, and also I can work not on the road. That's a nice thing.
You can kind of set up shop for a few months.
Yeah. I mean, that has slowly become a little bit rare, and I mean, also like I started doing this when I was 23. I think almost 24. And I did say that I was like, all right, I'm just going to give myself 10 years to try a bunch of different stuff and get better at it, and then I'll be more focused on what I need to like zero in on. Then it felt arrogant to be like, oh, I'll be this because like I didn't know what I was good at.
Right.
Oh.
And I still don't.
Back to the fact that you've been on the road on this tour since, a good stretch. How do you follow the games? Because I've texted you in the middle of Leafs games, and I was like, oh, shit, he's got a show tonight. But you're always very aware of how the Leafs are playing, even when you're doing a show. How does that work?
Well, first of all, my priorities are in the wrong place. That always helps. No, it's for me, honestly, it's like I like to try to recreate my home kind of routine as much as possible when I am on the road, just for like sleep's sake. And I do have NHL Game Center, and I will watch the games. I always have it backstage in a laptop, which, depending on who I'm working with, is either very convenient or very annoying. But I do always have it there, and even I could pause it when I go on stage, and then I'll just come back and catch up on what was happening. So that's been good. And I play in like 2 fantasy hockey leagues. Like, this is a great. I don't know. It's almost like hockey has become like it's going to sound sad, like a security blanket type of thing. It's like a cozy thing that you watch. Sometimes fills you with rage, but is regardless always there.
I absolutely identify with that as a security blanket that sometimes fills you with rage, but hopefully going forward, not as much. One of my friends who plays in a band, because I was always kind of curious, one of my friends, his monitor guy, he wears in-ears, and his monitor guy would give him the scores and updates as he was playing.
I respect that so much.
That was like, wow, that is intense. Like, this guy is.
I just feel like that's the thing that I don't want. I don't want to process that information in front of people. I mean, after we did, Matt, this past year, I don't know if you caught any of it, but this past year during the playoffs, Chuck talked me into live streaming us watching one of the Bruins games in the finals.
I still feel bad about that.
And it's what it had the potential to be like the 3-1 game in the series, and instead they lost. And I was quite not okay with it, and since then I've become more and more aware of I'm a bad loser. Like, I don't like it when my team loses. The Boston Bruins have lost more Stanley Cups than anyone else, and that sucks a lot.
Yeah, okay. Are you trying to make me empathize for your playoff record as a Leafs fan? Because I don't think you're going to get that out of me here. That's where you're going.
I know, like, I mean, I know it's probably not going to happen with you guys, but I'm just saying
that's a stat I'm going to chirp.
Last year we got too close.
Man, but that's the thing is
You know, though, I'm with you. I bet that hurts 6 times as much.
I mean,
I don't feel bad, but I bet it hurts.
I mean, I'm sure at some point you guys are going to find out how crushing a second round loss is, let alone losing in the finals. But this is your year. You're going to lose in the second. It's going to be great.
Can we agree? Let me ask you this. Can we agree that the playoff format sucks?
Yes, we were talking about that earlier too, but Chuck likes it.
Oh,
apparently.
good.
Oh, I don't like it. I just don't want a West versus West Stanley Cup Finals. Like Mike is okay with that. That's insane.
I'm okay with the bracket being reseeded constantly.
Me too. I would do it every conference. And I mean, I know that because of travel, this is not realistic, but that's the argument against it. But honestly, like, I think it would be great if the playoffs were 1 versus 16, and you just did the best 16 teams made it,
and then
people are like, well, what about travel? Well, the teams are doing the same amount of travel. It's like you're at the mercy of luck, everybody else.
What about travel? Do you understand how good travel is right now? We are probably at the greatest it's ever been for travel. Like that is
such a good point.
I had a guy tell me I just flew back from South Carolina the other night, and a guy was telling me, we were out to dinner on Wednesday, I guess, and we were talking about flying and talking about trips and all this kind of stuff. And he says, I kind of like turbulence a bit because it reminds me I'm flying, because otherwise it's just too chill. And I was just kind of like, one, that's an incredible metaphor for life, but also when it was really bumping. When it was really bumpy on the way into St. John's, I was keeping it in mind, like, okay, the pilot's like wind. This is just let me know it's flying. Like, yeah, it's just whatever. But if it's like, oh no, we have to sit on a jet, we've got to fly from New York to Vegas a couple extra times. Like, fuck off! You're NHLers playing in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Like, suck it up, boys.
There's a great line in John Scott's book that talks about the travel. When he was with the NHL, and then he got sent down to the AHL, and he's like, oh yeah, it's like you're very aware very quickly that you're not on a chartered jet, that they're feeding you just the right amount of calories to recover, and then ask you, would you like a Guinness for some flavor? And it's like the NHL travel got it good now.
Yeah.
And also, all this stuff, and I understand that, there is a real impact on sleep. I've read a bunch of stuff about that, and it's very interesting to me. But, again, people talk about travel, and it's just people talk about it oh yeah, well, the travel's gonna be, you're not in a Flintstones car, dragging your bare feet across the ground. You're in a plane. There's people in a hammock that has an ice bath in it, getting fed grapes while it happens. And they play Nintendo Switch. It's not oh no, I have to sit they're sitting in the sky in a chair more comfortable than what I have at my house. I don't care. 1 versus 16. I demand it.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I flew back from South Carolina. It was 22 hours, I think, from the time my alarm went off in the morning until I got in the front door of my house.
You were in South Carolina?
Yeah.
Is Canada not racist enough for you right now?
Actually, you know what, man? I didn't see shit. It was great. Everybody I talked to.
My dad said the same thing, and I'm out of my depth a little bit,
So I flew back from South Carolina. It was a 3-leg flight. I was in Columbia, flew from Columbia to Charlotte to Toronto to St. John's, because our flight originally only had an hour layover in Toronto, and we had to clear U.S. Customs and change terminals. We had to rebook the St. John's leg, and it ended up being 10-hour layover in Toronto. So it was exceptionally long, but that was me flying economy on Air Canada, Rouge, and American Eagle. It's not an NHL team during the playoffs, on chartered flights that are specifically for them to get from point A to B. I'm sorry. The longest you're going to be flying anywhere is going to be max 4 or 5 hours. And that's assuming it's Boston to LA.
Yeah, 5 hours is the longest they're going to do.
That's, going from Florida to Vancouver or Edmonton.
Yeah.
Come on, guys. The chances that both of those teams get seeded against each other are so low.
Imagine a Florida and Vancouver final, Mike. You just put that in my head.
Yeah.
You just put
Can
that
you
in my head.
imagine how nobody would watch that?
Some of the worst jerseys playing. Oh my God. Those weird Navy navy blue Panthers jerseys.
Man, and when you saw the Canucks the other night pull out the old skates, and it's just like,
jeez,
you guys are so close to just going back to those and being perfect.
Oh my God, it's
this
so
close
good.
to greatness. This close to greatness.
And I mean,
It reminds me of Pavel Bure, like flying down the ice wearing a visor the size of a windshield. I miss it.
I know. And
every other player tapping their sticks for a pass, and he's like, "No, boys, I got it."
No,
This
but
one's
and
mine.
He's like, I don't speak English. He's like, I didn't say anything, Pavel. I tapped my sticks. He's like, sorry, no English.
I saw someone talking the other day about like how the Nordiques just before they moved were changing their jerseys. They had a whole
they were
plan.
hideous.
We're gonna go like purple and teal. They had a wolf on them, and it was like this. And they were like such a peak late '90s AHL jersey, look to 'em.
Unbelievably hideous.
And everyone's like, and it's terrible because they had like one of the best jerseys of all time. But like that means that right now, if the Nordiques had stayed in Quebec, right now they would just be reintroducing those old ones, the Igloo jerseys, as throwbacks, and we would all be losing our minds.
Oh, we'll be there. We'll get there very quickly.
Like, oh my God.
We'll be seeing those next Christmas.
And I just don't understand how, and while we're just on this jersey tangent, how have the LA Kings not figured it out? I know they're doing the white Gretzky era throwbacks for like one game this year, but how have they not realized that that's just what we want? Please give it to us.
I think I think they're going to get you to buy everything. That's what the Penguins did. They'll get you to buy everything else before they give you what you want, and then you buy that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's simply what it is.
No, but I mean, their
like,
stadium series jerseys are so ugly.
The LA jerseys, they're like, you have a team, and it's like, okay, so we have two color schemes. We have black and white. And like, okay, that's pretty subtle. And what else? And it's like, oh, we have purple and gold for their old uniforms. Like, those two things like that is a big pendulum swing in either direction.
Where are you from again?
I'm from Gander.
And what color did Gander wear?
Purple and gold, baby.
Yeah, there we go. And we only found this out like a couple weeks ago from Nashville. That I always assumed that it was like we always assumed that the Gander Flyers were like everything was based around Philadelphia Flyers, and they just liked the color pattern of. I guess it's like something to do with the Rotary Club in Gander or something. Liked that color pattern better. And then we saw the Dixie Flyers jerseys when Nashville designed their throwbacks, and we went, oh, that's what all this is based on because it looks exactly like it. Which was interesting, yeah.
Hey, how was the Bell Center, Matt?
Oh, it was amazing. But while we're on the jerseys, I gotta get this out.
Yep.
Worst jerseys in the league. Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Tampa. Yeah. And I'll tell you why. It has nothing to do with the logo. The logo's fine. I mean, I do think putting bolts on your jersey is embarrassing. In the same way that I feel putting Sens on it, it's just like, don't put your abbreviations on your Jesus. Get your shit together.
Yeah.
But listen, I don't care how you feel about the Leafs. They've been in the league for a million years. You don't put a team in your division just like, oh, we'll do this. We'll do the same color scheme as this very non-famous team. And now they just look like you turned the Leafs jerseys inside out and put Stamkos on the back. It is infuriating. The Andrew Chuck ones, like the black and the silver, they were great.
I honestly,
anyway.
Here's my take on that.
Close second, New Jersey Devils for me. Very boring. Very boring.
No, but here's my take.
Oh, I love the Devils.
Oh,
I think the Devils are a great one. I don't think they're nearly as boring as Chuck will always argue.
Yeah.
But here's my thing.
What do you feel about the green one?
Oh, the green ones.
are
red and green.
The green
Christmas
ones
one.
are the green ones and the white shell, the old home green ones with the white. Beautiful jerseys. When you just strip that green out and make it black, very boring. It's like a feeder football league to me. It's not. You know what I mean? It looks like that Sega Genesis Mutant Football League color scheme to me. It's just boring.
Sorry, what are you saying, Mike? I think I cut you off, buddy.
No, I was just gonna say like what I think happened with those Tampa jerseys is think of the timing in which they came out. That was they switched to the jerseys that we all hate so much in 2011, which was right around the same time. And I'm just going to confirm this while I'm saying it out loud. It wasn't that long after Steve Yzerman came to Tampa Bay. And what those jerseys to Tampa Bay look like to me is just going, okay, black, white, and blue are our colors. And so they just designed jerseys to look like, take, options within that and make blue and white Red Wings jerseys. That's to me what they look like, even more so. Like, I know when you're watching them play against the Leafs, you're like, okay, who's home, who's away, trying to figure it out. But like the white ones, especially, like, you know, the blue ones especially, are just blue Red Wings jerseys.
So you're ripping off 2 original 6 teams at once. How am I angrier about this than when we begun? This is deeply
and I mean,
wrong.
And I think that's all they were trying to do is just like homage the Red Wings and play up Eisner, and like that's it. They just tried to make a Tampa Bay version of it. It was basically if someone tried to do a hybrid and just tried to like, okay, let's try to make a Tampa Bay jersey. That is based on the Red Wings. And that's exactly what those jerseys are. And it's because of Yzerman. But as ugly and horrible as they are, when they were like, okay, we're going to do a third jersey, though, and we're going to make it more infuriating because they're going to be dark gray on black.
Another little bit of jersey minutia. Vegas jerseys, in my opinion, would be perfect if they did not have one red stripe. That one red... You know what it looks like? It's like if you were creating a team in NHL and you forgot to fix something, and then you have to play the whole season without it before you put it on again.
Yeah.
It's like they forgot one red patch. The gray and gold looks amazing. The uniforms are perfect, except for the red. And
I get what you're saying.
To know if anyone else feels this.
On their dark jerseys, if they had put where the red is black, and if on their white jerseys they had made it that gray, I can totally see where you're coming from there. Yeah. I totally get that. I think you're right. I think those would be much better done that way and just streamlined.
I mean, they nailed everything else. Everything else was. I can't picture a more fun sports story than what Vegas was. Maybe when Leicester won soccer, but I mean, we're way out of this.
I know, and I mean, and just because again, while we're just ripping on jerseys, can I just talk about how briefly how the Dallas Stars jerseys constantly look like just St. Patty's Day warm-ups.
Oh yeah, that's another one. That's another one. The white one's fine to me, but the dark-colored home one, it looks like a low-budget feeder league somewhere else.
Yeah, it's just
really boring
because it's just black and gray, and white. Like
again,
it's just because it's that, and it's. We were talking about this, I think, on Twitter about like how they're trying to stay away from the North Stars just because there's such a complicated history, and so they're trying to eliminate the gold kind of thing. But still, it's just it looks like shit.
But again, I'm going to get back to you. They'll give you everything else before they finally give you what you want. We're going to get those old stars back. We're going to get those 90s star jerseys back with like the star down on the bottom helm and the foot and crease goal era. They're going to be back. They're just going to get
that jersey is the best jersey in the history of hockey to score foot in the crease Stanley Cup winning goal on.
Especially since that's what the NHL All-Star jerseys looked like at the time.
That was so bold. That was so strange. That was the NHL, because I remember that I had Animal from the Muppets.
I had all 4 of them.
Oh man!
I mean, McDonald's was crushing the ice hockey merchandise at one point. I got this little those little goalie masks you used to be able to get. I still have my Felix the Potvin goalie mask.
I still have
got at McDonald's.
I still have my Bruins one upstairs somewhere. I can't remember if it's either Bill Ranford or Blaine Locker.
I thought it was Byron Dafoe.
It might be Byron Dafoe. There was a brief era where like the Bruins didn't really have a like a go-to guy, like kind of between Andy Moog and Tim Thomas. It was a bit of a revolving door
and
there.
Every
for a while.
dude sounds like a '50s beat poet. Defoe, Andy Moog.
But I mean, they had Potvin in there for a stretch. They had a pile of guys in, but yeah, the fact that the Dallas Stars in
Kerouac was in there.
The fact that the Dallas Stars did in fact have jerseys that were the same pattern as the same pattern as the league's All-Star jerseys is just mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, it's so weird.
And they started the same year. Like they brought them in as their thirds in '97, which was the year the NHL stopped using them, I think. I'm just trying to find this here. I got it in front of me.
They're just waiting for the NHL to drop.
You're like, are you guys done with that? Or,
you guys done?
Yeah, it was the NHL ran those jerseys from '94 to '97, and the Stars started using the pattern in '97.
Guys,
I guess they were
my God, there's definitely like a board meeting. Someone came in and like the year after. Why didn't we think that?
Yeah.
What's going to die first, guys? The All-Star game or daylight savings time?
Oh man.
Oh, please both at once.
Yeah.
Same car situation.
Yeah, I just oh man. I hate daylight savings time. The All-Star game I can kind of fuck around with. Like I just think they need to keep playing with the format. Honestly, I'm at a point where what I want them to do is just blow up all these I want them to blow up the all the stadium series and all that shit and just give us an outdoor All-Star game. That's what I want. I want the All-Star game to be the outdoor thing.
Yeah, but Mike, those stadium games make so much money, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I'm not saying like get rid of like was the Winter Classic.
Also,
Winter Classic's a thing, but like All-Star Classic outdoors, hell, make them throw sticks.
One's coming to Halifax, I think, if they build that football stadium. So leave them along as long as they build that fucking stadium.
That's another thing is do the NHL All-Star game outside NHL cities and just try to expand to different markets that way and do them as outdoor games. That's the way to do the All-Star game.
And send
you know what I think would be fun for an All-Star game is if you had a very, very short format 3-on-3 tournament with all the teams. So every team just got to send like 5 guys, and they still represented their own teams, but it was a very mini style like 3-on-3 tournament that it was like, all right, first to 3, if you single elimination, if you lose, you're out.
It's like that video
not
game
worth
Hits.
anything. Maybe you play. Pardon me.
It's like that video game Hits from like the 2000s, where it's just 3 guys.
Well, yeah, and that'd be fucking awesome. Maybe like you'd be like, okay, whoever wins, you get X amount of charity money for your, a charity in your city, and then just let them go the 3-on-3 rule.
I even like the idea of going back to what the All-Star games were like way back in the day, which is do like the Stanley Cup champions against an All-Star team of everybody else.
I don't remember.
Yeah, but
that.
I mean, with that many teams now, though, it's crazy.
I know
you're gonna have Max Talbot matching up with like a fucking 2004 Rick Nash.
But I mean, and I know that wasn't all. It was like the host teams. Like I know the first couple All-Star games were done as charity events for players. So like it was when Ace Bailey had his career-ending injury. They did a fundraiser for Ace Bailey, and so the Leafs played the NHL All-Stars.
Imagine getting your 4th line stuck out against that format, though.
Oh my God, poor Freddie Gauthier out there chasing around.
Yeah, but you're talking about this in a scenario in which a 4th line Freddie Gauthier is on the Stanley Cup champion.
Oh.
Hey, man, the heart wants what it wants.
And you know what? I should also say, how dare I say what I just said about Max Talbot? That man deserves much better. He had one of the greatest hockey games I've ever seen a human being have live.
And beat Mike Babcock.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
I mean,
that kid had everyone's driveway experience at Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals.
Oh, completely, right? Like that's exactly the way you picture that whole thing going down.
I mean, I was scoring a third to get the hat trick, but you know, I didn't make it that far in my hockey career.
Yeah.
Punched a kid on the bus, they wouldn't let me play anymore.
Well, you know.
I will like this if I mean, let's go to fantasy camp real quickly here.
All right.
If this Keith Dubas team does it, I won't even say it out loud. If they do the thing, that is such a great sports story. It's like, okay, they started together in the OHL, and everyone said they were stupid, and then they won, and then they went to the AHL. And people said that it wouldn't work, and when it was in junior, and then they won. And then everybody was like, there was this big, like, you have these two, like, and like Lou and Babcock both did good things, but they're undeniably representative of an old guard.
Yeah.
And they leave, and then these little tinkers that it's like, like letting Justin Hall play, and like having a 4th line that you don't bury in your own zone, who you actually expect to drive the puck into the other net. It's just like this comprehension. That's the biggest thing I've noticed now. Is when they talk about defending, they're not talking about like, we have to be hard and gritty in front of the net. They're like, no. The best way to defend is we need to get the puck transported into the other zone where it's far easier to defend when you're a million feet away from your goalie. And it's like, how is this new thinking? Like, of fucking course.
Yeah,
I mean, I never thought about it because like a lot of hockey opinions, let's be, for the most part, is I heard somebody say something on TV while I was eating a can of SpaghettiOs, and I half heard it, and then I regurgitated it at a party. That is most hockey discourse, in my opinion.
100%.
Yeah.
And so that's like, I mean, I grew up the same way. I mean, I drank the Brian Burke Kool-Aid. I was like, yes, we do need truculence, a word that I understood.
I was not a truculence guy. I wasn't. I was like, I don't know about that. I don't know if there's a room for Fraser McLaren and Colton Orr on the same team.
That's too much truck.
That's too much
truck.
Yeah. I was like, there was another guy too. I'm missing one. There was like Fraser McLaren, Colton Orr. There's one more guy that was there. He had a mean mustache.
The best clip of that era is Tim Brent blocking 3 shots on the same penalty kill. It's the most heroic hockey clip I've ever seen in my life. If anyone listening to this, you should just Google Tim Brent. Nothing else comes up. But it is he had a great AHL career and stuff, and he got a good ticket. And I loved him. I thought he was. But this one penalty killing shift is like, I want to pin a medal on that man.
They were
so good.
I mean, guys, let's like, you can say all that you want, but let's not talk about, like, we can't. Greg Campbell with a broken leg against Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah, that's true.
On the penalty kill, Greg Campbell broke his fucking leg and stayed out to clear the zone and block shots with a broken leg.
I did that in ball hockey once.
With a broken leg?
I broke my knee, shattered my knee, got up and still managed to clear the puck and then got off. And one dude's like, I'm not ready for a shift. And I'm like, get on. He's like, I'm not ready for a shift. His name was Josh. And he's like, I don't want to go back on. And I'm like, fuck you, Josh. I think I just broke my leg. And I did. Shattered my knee.
Man, that's
so crazy. I also have a heroic story. One time my dad took me to Mary Brown's and I ordered a hot turkey sandwich because I thought that meant spicy turkey sandwich. But it actually means a turkey sandwich drowned in gravy.
Yeah.
And I cried and still ate it. And then I cried more. And then I played hockey and I scored 4 goals.
Whoa. Yeah, but if you were like a real OG
I too have endured great pain. That's my point.
If you were an OG hockey guy, you would eat nothing but hot turkey sandwiches
for the rest of your career,
and have heart surgery at 25.
I mean, in all fairness, I'm not gonna lie. Like I've eaten a turkey dinner and gone out and potted in a couple, but yeah, man.
Wow.
I know that. Oh my gosh, I had to eat a Mary Brown's hot turkey sandwich. Come on, man. I mean,
didn't even know Mary Brown's made those.
It depends on what Mary Brown's you go to, but
it's a regional thing, like, is it?
Well, no, they do. No, it's not hot turkey. It's a hot chicken sandwich that's done. I think if I'm not mistaken, Matt, I don't mean to put like hot turkey in your mouth, but from what I remember, Mary Brown's always had a hot chicken sandwich that was just like chicken that was cut up. It wasn't like a Big Mary. It was like they cooked a chicken and then like shredded up the chicken and then put that on the sandwich. And so Correct. It was like a hot turkey sandwich, but it was actually chicken.
Fuck, I've got to
so they did that.
Everything I know
but
about
if you go
Mary
to
Brown's.
Mary's Diner up on Torbay Road, you can actually get a hot turkey sandwich there.
There we go.
Not that I think
the Big Mary is the perfect chicken sandwich. I haven't gotten anything else at Mary Brown's in quite some time.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't do it. I don't mess around with it simply because I can never convince them not to put a fucking pickle on it.
Buddy, I'm with you.
And I hate pickles. And I have it's like near phobia. Like if one comes on a sandwich, I will like cut off part of the bun rather than risk like any of it touching anything.
I love pickles.
No, gross.
But
the worst.
Whatever the pickle does to that bread is unholy.
No,
it turns into this weird resin and it like it soaks the bread with this antifreeze color. Mike's getting sick in front of me. Oh
yeah. It's like. Oh, no, I'm not going to make the analogy I was about to make. But the pickle just makes it all. It makes it all. It's like the Leafs roster right now. It's like even if what is happening in what's on the roster and the ingredients are very tasty, if there's someone that insists on rubbing a pickle over the top of it, it's not going to perform like it should.
The pickle talk has literally made Mike leave the room and get sick. It's just me and you, buddy.
Good.
He's gonna be so mad when he gets back too.
Pickles are not good, my friends. They're not good.
I like a pickle, man, but I got a lot of heat on Twitter over this too. A lot of people got angry at me. Imagine on the internet, people get angry. But I tweeted about the pickle and how it had no business being put on top of a sandwich. And holy moly, man! I think the Alan Hocko guy was like, "You got to get off this island." That's it. You're gonna move.
Alan Hucko sent you off.
I think so. I think if there's any Newfoundlander to send somebody off the island, I think it's gonna be him at this point.
Yeah, he probably does have. He probably does have that kind of power.
Yeah, oh, definitely, 100%.
He was on this pod, wasn't he?
No, he kind of hopped in when we were doing a bunch of live stuff before. He hopped on. We should get him on sometime because he's a huge Leafs guy. Leafs guy. He said they had to fire Babcock when we had him on for like a hot minute during the heart and stroke weekend.
Who are we talking about?
Hocko, yeah. He said they got to get rid of the coach back in like May. So
yeah. I mean, in all fairness, so did Kyle Dubas.
I've had dinner with him one time, and it was through like a mutual like work thing. And that was the night that Austin Matthews got drafted.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I moved into my apartment that night, and I had no internet, no nothing like that. So we left our phones. We left our phones all away, and we were moving, and the last thing we got in the house was the couch, and it was the draft lottery story, so the Wright the draft Austin Matthews, and for whatever reason, Lucas is always the guy to break big news to me, but I got him the Babcock news, so I've broken that trend. So literally the last thing we get inside is the couch, and my phone, I go grab it out of the moving truck, and I grab it, and there's like 20 missed calls from Lucas Wall. So I'm like, well, somebody has obviously passed away. Like somebody.
In a sense, they have.
Yeah, and it was the Matthews. It's like they got the first overall lottery pick, but the fucker read him 30 down. He's like, I've got the draft order, and I knew the Leafs like definitely had won because 20 fucking missed calls, but he read them 30 down, so he let like 90 seconds to 2 minutes just me writhing. It's like, tell me.
Just say it.
Oh yeah, he's a showman.
Oh, that's incredible. No, that's good. I appreciate the showmanship there.
Yeah,
I really do.
Showman.
Mike
is back after an unfortunate.
Honestly, guys, I had to pee and thought that was an organic way to get out of the room. I faked it.
Oh man, now I gotta sleep knowing that.
Yeah. No, I do in fact find them disgusting and don't want to. Going back to talking, but that's why I don't order the Big Mary, because anytime I order it, I specifically say it, and then they don't listen and put it on anyway, and so I just gave up, and now I just stick with like the chicken fingers, which are also delicious.
But if you put some bread and mayonnaise and lettuce around those chicken fingers, buddy, you're in a whole new world.
But here's the thing: I'm also not a big mayo guy, but what I will do from time to time is I will
perhaps the Big Mary is not a sandwich for you, period.
No, but here's what you do is you get it without the mayo, but a side of gravy, and then you dip the Big Mary in the gravy, or take off the bun and put gravy on the bun and eat it. That is delicious.
I do some gravy dips, but I mean, listen, we can't leave my mayo out of this party place. I think it's pulling a lot of weight.
No, I'm a huge when I get Mary Brown's chicken tenders, I'll do the gravy on the side and use that as my dipping sauce. So that's my.
Your listeners, by the way, who are not from a part of the world that have a Mary Brown, are very confused right now, which I think is most of the world.
They're everywhere now, man. They're in Istanbul.
They've got ones in Florida and stuff. They're spreading their wings. Oh yeah. But Mary Brown's okay. If we provided the context of you're welcome. If we provided the context of what this hour has 22 minutes is for people, Mary Brown's is the greatest fried chicken place you will ever encounter in your life. It is so good. It's a Newfoundland-based company that somehow has the best fried chicken anywhere.
But here's the problem. We've already been talking about this for 48 minutes. This is like a Tarantino movie where you have to piece it together at the end.
Yeah, that's true.
We're talking about Mary Brown's in a non-linear manner.
The 1980s wrestler, the Honky Tonk Man, loves Mary Brown's.
Is that true? I mean,
that's
yes,
true.
Of course.
That's
How is that
true,
shocking at all?
Man, I've got another Mary Brown story for you, but it's one that I was told I had to keep secret, so I'll tell you guys off the air, and everybody listening can just wonder what it is. But I'll tell you guys when we're
what? You have a non-disclosure agreement about a Mary Brown story? What happened to you?
Yeah, I'll tell you after. So let's just, Matt, if you're okay with it, we got a couple other things that were on our list too, because we've tried to talk to you about your comedy career and keep diverting off into other topics.
We're letting the horses run.
So, so I had 3 other topics left on my checklist of stuff we wanted to talk about today, and I figured, shag it. Let's do it with you on here, and we'll just ride out the rest of the show like this if you're cool with that. Does that sound good?
Certainly.
If you have the time, I know you've been on with us for a while, and I don't want to overcommit. But
I'm working 20 minutes a day, baby. That's slam.
Also, we have a list. That's how professional and organized we are with this podcast. If you're
no, I
wondering.
respect it. I would expect no less. I would expect no less from you.
all right, so Matt, are you
Oh,
familiar?
and I will say, because actually, now let me say this before I forget, because I thought about it when we were talking about something else, and I made that joke about Terry at the beginning, and I think that him getting fired from Mill Street sucks and super stupid. So I just want to let him know I'm on his team there. That's no good.
Yeah, we didn't get too deep into it, but we kind of explained that happened. He's taking some time off to kind of focus as he tries to figure out what his next thing is, and which is just it just sucks. I mean, it's also like and I said this earlier. We don't want to talk too much about
it's Terry's story, and I think he'll be back.
I will
hopefully be back soon to tell it.
I will say more than anything else, and this is always going to be my stance on this, is that Terry has a book. He has this podcast. He's done Spit and Chicklets. He's been on radio and TV and stuff. And he's been a public figure for 25 years. You guys knew what you were getting when you hired Terry Ryan. Come the fuck on.
Yeah, exactly.
You knew exactly what you were hiring and what you were getting. So
I don't know how it was offensive.
What the fuck is
It's
anyway.
when I watched it, I was like, offensive to people named Terry Ryan, maybe.
He's chirping himself. It's either way. It's I personally think it's stupid.
Yeah.
We wish Terry was here, because there's one of the things that we have on our list is talking about Don Cherry, and Terry talked about Don a little bit on Tales with TR, the first episode of his podcast last week. But I was here, but we didn't have a conversation about it because that's not what that show is. Right. But we're going to talk about it now because we haven't had a chance to since.
Let's go with Matt first.
So Matt, what's your take on the Don Cherry situation?
I mean, kind of the same way I feel about Babcock, in the sense that I do not like to tap dance on graves. But that said, like, I have 2 grandparents who served in the military. I said worked in the military. That's not how that works. Certainly not in the 50s. And I mean, like, poppies I think are very important, but like, you can explain your passion about that without, race baiting, basically. The way that he chose to go about that was very alienating to groups of people, and it was wrong. You can't say shit like that, and it's especially on a broadcasted network, and all these like free speech people. It's like he got paid like millions of dollars. Like, that's expensive speech.
It's not free. But here's my take on it, and I'll say my thing before Charles comes in, just because we have to have some sort of order to the chaos. My thought on this whole thing is that it comes down to one word. It's not you people that's the problem, because Don Cherry has used you people to preface talking to various groups his entire career. You people that don't wear visors. You people who order complicated sandwiches in the drive-thru at Tim Hortons. You people who do he uses you people as a preface to direct at different groups all the time. The word that posed the problem for me was come. It was, if he says you people that live here and like our milk and honey, and that's what, afterwards he did try to, even after he was given the opportunity to apologize and wouldn't, he did in the media try to correct himself and say he was talking to everybody who doesn't wear a poppy. And so to me,
but he was in the media. He was on Tucker Carlson's fucking White Power Hour.
Yeah, I know.
But at the same time, again, I think it all comes down to that one word. But it's also the case of, for the free speech people, it's like you said, it's expensive speech. It wasn't he didn't go to jail for what he said. He just lost his job from a private company.
Yeah,
and they have that right to do that. So I mean,
all right,
yeah.
I'm gonna jump in here, and obviously, if you follow me on Twitter, and if anybody knows me, I've been waiting for this for a good while. But Dave Bedini from the Globe and Mail has summed it up pretty good, because in high school and in junior high, I'd be the kind of person who'd be at a party or at a room full of people, and I would shush people when Dom would come on, and then slowly I would slope into my couch when Dom would come on. Then I would mute him, and then I I would listen and see the clips on YouTube and yell at Don. So it was a slow burn to this. My only thing is that really, like, and Matt had said I'm not going to dance on anyone who got fired or anything. Well, the only burn that I've got on this, on the whole Don Cherry situation, was it was somehow everyone tried to say it's about something that it wasn't. It was about free speech. Well, no, I don't think it was, because he was race baiting. Some people tried to say, well, it's about old school hockey, which drives me fucking insane, because if you have any form of divisiveness and you try to tie that to sports, that really, really bugs me. And I've seen people come together over hockey, and that's, you know, I've heard of people who come to this country and that's how they meet their people at work, by talking about hockey and learning about hockey and selecting a hockey team. So to do that, but the last thing is, Rogers Sportsnet did everything they could to shield him from this, and he was just adamant on dropping that grenade. They went on, they apologized, they did everything they could. Ron apologized on his behalf. Then he goes to the Sun. The Toronto Sun has a reputation of race baiting. He goes to the Sun, he doubles down, and then it was like, the sponsors get involved. And when the sponsors get involved, well, you're going to lose your job.
Yeah, and I mean, that's, and more than anything, I think, for me, it just comes down to a question of, when my grandfather passed away, he was 89 years old. Pop was my best friend. You know, he's somebody I absolutely adored, worshiped the ground that man walked on. He had some problematic thoughts of being a near 90-year-old man who had grown up through the 20th century in various points of things happening. And
two world wars makes you nervous about people.
And so my whole thing is, as much as I love my pop and I understood who my pop was and what he thought and why he thought the way he thought and why he said sometimes the things that he said, as much as I loved him, I would never want him at any point in his through his 70s or 80s as I knew him, for him to have 10 minutes of live television to speak to the nation. Because, you know, and because even when he would talk about hockey, he would also fly off onto different tangents and different things, like we have over the last couple minutes talking about this particular topic. And so that's kind of for me, it's just, it was an inevitability that it was going to happen. I mean, we had Ron on the show not long ago, and he kind of said too that he thought it was just, you know, he knew that Don deliberately would push buttons and go certain ways. And
that changed my perspective on it too. When Ron said he writes everything out 4 or 5 times, what he's going to say, I know it wasn't. And like,
and no, but still, I think, and it was also the timing. Sid Sixero talked about this, about how, you know, for Ron, as it's happening, he's got somebody in an IBF telling him he's got 45 seconds, 30 seconds, they're getting ready to throw to a clip, and he just has to kind of wrap it up. So he's only half able to kind of catch everything that's going on. And so it's just, the whole thing is very complicated, and I think that Don Cherry did do a lot of good for the game of hockey over the 40 years that he was on television. But there was parts of that it was happening less and less frequently that what he was doing was positive. And to me, it's sad that this is the way it kind of goes out, and this is what the legacy kind of like goes on. But you know, it is what it is, and it had to happen.
It's I brought it up when we were talking about Bob Cole last season. It's like, you know, the next person to go is going to be Don Cherry. We won't have this celebration like to get Bob Cole, because he's going to go out guns blazing. Yeah. He came a lot sooner than I thought it would, but boy, oh boy.
Me too. It was truly shocking. It was, and I will say I felt bad for Ron. Ron did, I think, 3 public apologies, and there's still people on the internet listen, I think he wore that pretty hard, man. And this whole idea of your apology is good enough. Well, it makes sense at some points. Like at a certain point, it's like, no, some of you guys are just a little bit bloodthirsty right now.
And I don't think
you felt like people never reconciled but like people like, you know, that's a lifelong friend of his. That is so tricky. I said this on stage the other night, but it was like somebody who was apologizing for a family dog who bit someone. It's like, you know he was wrong, but you still love the guy, and new people make him nervous.
That's that's perfect.
Oh my God,
I had something to add, but no, we're gonna leave it at that.
I think that's a good way to cap this off. Yeah,
that's the best one to look at there. That's the way to end it.
So we'll move into more. Speaking of new people, Morgan Frost is new to the NHL.
Good segue.
And-
Good segue, Mike.
And NBC Sports Philly put out possibly the greatest chyron I've ever seen on anybody. Have you seen this, Matt?
Yes, and I love it. I'm so excited you're bringing it up. Good job.
So it's Morgan Frost was chyron after the Flyers beat the Canes the other night 5-3. He's now he's got goals in both of his I think it might have just been his first game, but he's got a goal in his first NHL game, and I guess so does Neck, doesn't he?
Neck, yeah. Neck's got a goal in 2 games.
So he's tied, but
Nick.
I love how he knows who we're talking about.
but
Oh yeah.
so
Did you see Liljegren's Instagram story?
Whose?
Timothy Liljegren put up an Instagram story, and it's a very crudely photoshopped Pierre Engvall's head on a giraffe's cartoon body in it. It's just,
I did not
it's so
see that.
fun.
So anyway, NBC Sports Philly put up a chyron for him where it was Morgan Frost, and it says NHL all-time leaders in goals a game, and it's one even. Second is Mike Bossy with .76, and then third Mario Lemieux is .75, and then underneath that it said "Save your sample size comments," and it's like my favorite thing. It's just incredible, and I love. It's like the first thing that's Philly sports related that I've ever liked.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
It's just incredible. Yeah,
that was
but
incredible.
Well, second to Gritty, because Gritty's incredible.
Yeah, Gritty is.
But
Now that I think about it, those two things, like Philly's kind of crushing it right now.
they
Oh,
really
yeah,
are. I was
yeah.
just getting ready to say, like, yeah, between Gritty and this and this kind of stuff, like.
Those only 2 things. That's all you need.
but I think overall, I think because I've seen a couple other people make comments about other things like it that Sports Philly's done, like this and NBCS Philly has done, and it's apparently they've been doing this more and more, and so I think they're really kind of buying into the tone that Gritty is setting for and how well received it was, that they're getting a little bit more irreverent with what they're doing, and I kind of love it.
Our new brand is a scary furry monster with attitude.
Yeah.
Get used to it.
Yeah, and I love it. I'm completely on board for it. And the last thing,
Morgan Frost, son of Andy Frost, by the way, the former public address announcer at the Air Canada Center, now Scotiabank Arena.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Did not know that.
Yep.
Did not know that.
There you go. Checks in the mail, Andy.
Oh God! I mean, part of me like that's very cool, but then part of me is like, oh God, it just sucks. I watch a bit of basketball now, and soccer's the same way. If you get these stories that's like, oh man, this guy was a preacher in Africa until 2 years ago, and then he played basketball, and he's amazing. But then hockey is like,
His dad.
how much money did your dad make?
I don't know. He worked on Q107, and there was the public address announce. I don't know if the
but
Q10.
I mean, it's still growing up around the game and stuff.
Well,
but
fair. I don't know how much of the Q107.
Yeah, you know what?
people
I'm wrong in that sense. That's
Yeah.
kind of it. I do hold that opinion, but I don't think.
But
that's
if
a
the
good opinion.
Q107,
So my apologies to the entire Frost family.
if
No,
the
and I
Q107
mean, like, you don't wanna- and I-
people are listening, though, I could do that. Give me a call.
No,
Give me
but
a
I mean,
call.
I get what you're saying too, because you don't want speak. You know, we talked about Don Cherry a minute ago. You don't want to go the other way with regards to somebody who said some stupid stuff too. That was just going back the other way. This whole Jess Allen thing. It's just that one just makes me mad too, because it's just a whole other. And hockey is working so hard to become such an inclusive sport and to be recognized as such. And it's just shitty comments comments on both directions.
And like, here's the thing too: is hockey is a niche sport. We are not a large game. If you look at other sports, we are minuscule. Like, we need all the new fans that we can get. We really do. It's like, it's not. People are like, NASCAR is bigger than hockey in the States. I'm pretty sure. It's like we can't really be turning people away.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and yeah, like I just.
NASCAR's huge.
NASCAR is huge. I mean, but that said, I had more conversations about hockey in South Carolina than I did NASCAR.
Oh.
The guy who gave me the quote about turbulence, who's the guy who said that, grew up in Johnstown.
Whoa.
Going to like Jets and Chiefs
Ooh,
games, which is
yeah.
like very cool. He was telling me all about like when Paul Newman was in town, how cool it was. Like, he was a kid back. It was really cool.
He makes a hell of a
Okay, I misheard you. And I thought you said Jonestown. Like the Colts community. And I was like, oh holy shit, he's kind of burying the lead.
He made it good alive.
No,
Oh my god.
Johnstown, and I mean, there was, from what I've heard about that hockey team, there was also some massacres there. But we're gonna I'm gonna make that inappropriate joke and move on now, because the last thing that I actually had, I've only got one thing left on my checklist because it was just talking about Morgan Frost, which you did. So the last thing I have on my checklist is just something that it's more so something I want to rant about because I'm kind of mad.
Oh boy!
So get ready, buckle up. Here it's
Here we go.
Here's a
Here we go.
This week, Hockey Canada announced that they are changing the names of all the divisions. So it's going to be U6, U13, like under 13, under 16, under 18. This was, from what I understand, done to clarify the age groups at which you were dealing with. But every news organization everywhere reported it as Hockey Canada is getting rid of the term midget. And so everybody is getting mad about this because hockey can't, and to me, from my understanding of it, it is not a politically correct, like political correctness issue. It is an issue of they're clarifying the terms for what the leagues and divisions are. So you know that if you have a kid playing what has always been called midget, it's under 18. If it's it's under whatever, it's bantam. So it's being done to clarify the age groups, not necessarily just to wash out the politically incorrect terms, but every news organization positioned it that way so people would get mad about it on Twitter and turn every straight news story about it into clickbait nonsense so people would argue in the comments.
So I thought that the highest grade was bantam. I thought the under 18s were bantam.
Nope.
So okay, yeah. See,
under 18 is midget. Under 16 is bantam. Under 14 is, and the thing is that they've changed it too because it used to kind of follow grades and now it follows like birth years and stuff.
Okay.
So all it makes sense to clarify these terms this way, but because of the way that news organizations and media outlets reported it, they did it so that it would be engagement baiting. So people would comment and like or put up angry emojis or whatever and fight in the comments of all their posts and stories on it. And it just makes me so mad.
Well, that almost goes back to the Don Cherry thing. The people that got mad at Ron McLean and the people that got mad at it's like, that's not about hockey. That's about something else. Yeah. People were getting mad at this. That's not about hockey. That's about something else.
No, but that's the thing. Yeah. It was about hockey, and they tried, and the way it got reported, the lead was set up in such a way that it made it seem like it was about something else, and it wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, this is something that this itself is much larger than hockey, but the reality is right now the mandate of most publishing companies, whatever that means anymore, is what will get the most amount of people talking. And human brains are limited in the sense that we are pulled to negative stuff much faster than positive stuff. And it seems like the biggest stories are these little things, but really it's like, no, this is a very inflammatory issue that if you talked about in real life, most people wouldn't give a gentle shit about. But because it's on the internet and you see like, holy shit, 11,000 people are talking about this, never mind that 11,000 people is not that many. We'll start with that.
Yeah.
Two, it takes, and I say this as one of them, it takes a special kind of person to get through an argument on the internet.
Yeah.
You never read a book of like successful people. It's like, here's my daily routine. I wake up, I eat my overnight oats, and I put on my clothes that I sit out the night before. Then I get into a big fucking fight with a guy with an egg pitcher on Twitter, and then I get on the treadmill. It's like, no, it's like this is a dysfunction, and we're amplifying it, and it's wrong.
Yep.
There's an image.
And also, I like that they changed the names because I would like to have, like, I think that is handy if I'm trying to remember my past. People are like, I had to think of the other day, like, how old was I in grade 7? And I was like, I don't know, 21. It just blurs more and more. Just tell me how old everyone is in every division of everything. It's so much simpler.
It's that 10 years.
They said you got midget, you got, like, bantam, which sounds like what they almost named Gotham City, and they changed their mind at the last. It's all mosquito was in baseball. What are we talking
Adam,
about?
Novice. I mean, yeah.
Whoa, I was grown adult. Like, you gotta go with Pee-wee, boy.
Adam spelled ATOM, wasn't it? Yeah, I forgot about that one.
And so, I mean, like, and I could be wrong. Maybe it was in fact tried. Like, you know, I'm sure that removing the term, because it is something people have been kind of going after for a couple of years, and I'm sure removing that particular term was part of why the conversation about changing it came up. But at the end of the day, it's just a logical thing to change those names from the traditional names. Somebody I saw, I think my wife Maria shared a tweet with me the other day that just said tradition is just peer pressure from dead people.
Oh my God!
And
That's amazing. You know who else just shared that on the internet? My father.
But it's totally true.
100%.
And that's what it is. So it's people hanging on to these kind of traditions and these traditional terms, but like things change and just moving away from moving away from this term. I think that I think it was for a point of clarity about the age groups that were participating. I don't think it necessarily was solely because they wanted to eliminate what some people saw as a problematic term. Because I mean, at this point, it's really the only place that term gets used anymore. So, hopefully, so yeah, I think it's.
I think the pro wrestling world is still holding on to it.
Yeah, well, not the pro wrestling world.
You know,
that's the thing is, it's like, you know,
how politically correct can pro wrestling ever
but
get?
It's just
though?
like it's just really awkward when people are like advertise midget wrestling and you show up and it's just a bunch of 15-year-old kids and you're like, ah, damn it, it's the wrong kind of. Oh shit!
we regret to inform you the character of the Iron Sheik was insensitive.
Yeah.
But I mean, that man is still a character. He's still, but oh man. But that was a lot. We actually made it through the whole big list of things that we haven't talked about in a couple weeks because my basement was flooded, and not in a fun way.
Wait, what is the fun way? Is that a sexual thing? I don't know if I like that.
I don't know if I'd like that.
It's a euphemism. If someone says that being told that someone's basement is flooded could often be a positive thing.
I think you're confusing it with the roof is on fire, and I think you're way up.
No. Think about it. After I tell you the Mary Brown story, once we're off air, I'll explain this other part for you.
We've got the blue section coming up with them.
But Matt, you are in Kitchener tonight, which doesn't help anybody because this podcast won't go up for a few days. But where else is this tour going over the next little bit? And probably assume nobody's going to hear about tomorrow or Monday. Assume Tuesday is the first.
Well, no, that's okay. I mean, we're almost done now, and I mean, Danny is very famous, so he luckily does not need my help selling any tickets. So, but yeah, we're going to Calgary, Edmonton, Regina, and Winnipeg next week, and all Danny's dates are at hahaha.com. And then I'm going to be doing some more stuff in the coming years. If I could plug anything, I'd plug my album. If you don't follow me on the internet, things at Matt Wright Comics, or you can just continue with your lives. Either one's fine.
I highly recommend checking out the album. You've got two. Vasectomy Baby's been out for a couple years, but Existing is Exhausting is available now kind of anywhere you get things on the internet. So you can get it through Apple Music and Spotify and all that stuff, right? No,
it's actually not on Spotify.
Not on Spotify.
Yet,
I remember seeing a post about
I don't
this.
make any money on Spotify. And as I said, on the internet, I prefer some money to no money.
But if someone really wants it that badly and doesn't have a way that's not Spotify to get it, just like message Matt and he'll send it to you. Because
oh yeah. If you don't have any money, but you don't need to tell me that or tell me why. You can just send me a message and I will send it to you.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. I've listened through.
I can hear my own stupid laugh on it because I was there when they recorded that.
I missed the recording.
Every now and then, I'm like, oh yeah, that's my dumb laugh.
Well, I did the thing.
Oh, I love that.
I did the thing. I did the thing where I got the record and I listened to it, and I think I listened to it just like as soon as I got it. And then I put it on in the car for Maria on the way home from work, and then we went to the show. And so like there were parts of that record I heard like 3 times in the same day.
Jumped in with both.
Oh,
because it was great, but it was still just like. I was like, oh wait, I know where this segue's going. This is gonna be funny, and I still laughed incredibly hard every time because you are an incredible comedian, and I'm so happy for everything that's happened to you. I'm happy that you're a buddy of mine, and I can be like, I knew that guy somehow. I don't even.
Wow, that's not confident. You bailed out of that.
Yeah.
They were friends. My God.
Yeah. Yes. No. Matt is my friend. This is probably the first time we've done a podcast where I haven't had to get the number of the guest from somebody because I just had it in my phone.
Look at that. Yeah, he's in the phone book.
You know,
sounds like the old podcast is going downhill, boys.
Hey, are you back in town the beginning part of December?
Yes, I will be back on December 6th.
Oh,
for
perfect. For months.
All right.
Excellent.
Yeah. So we should watch a game, and I tell you what we should do. We should, I'll grab the missus, and we should do the tiki bar if that's still an option. I was telling her about it.
When are you going into Gander for, are you going in for Christmas?
Yeah, I'll be there from like Christmas Eve until like the 28th, probably.
Okay, good, because I'm having a Tiki Tibbs party.
Tiki Tibbs. All right, buddy. Well, shoot me all the details.
Yes, I will. I'm sure soon the Facebook thing will come up, and I'll send you stuff. But yeah,
I don't have Facebook, so you gotta text me.
Oh right, you don't. You got rid of because I still, but it's just the comedy page, right? So.
Yeah, and the only thing is now I don't know which of my relatives are racist. So that's the only thing that I have missed out on.
I had a hard week with that a few weeks ago.
Oh man, it's
yeah.
Oh jeez, Uncle Jim. What?
I mean, it's safe to assume most of them. At least that's that. You know, but
not most. I wouldn't say most. At the risk of shaming my family.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. You're like you said, you're going home for Christmas. You'll figure it out pretty quick.
Yeah.
All right, Matt. Thank you so much. So you can find Matt at Matt Wright Comedy, kind of across the way. He's posting some great videos too, clips from the live show and different things.
It's Matt Wright Comic. I changed it.
Oh, Matt Wright Comic.
God,
all right.
I'm being so hard to get along with.
So Matt Wright Comic across all this stuff is where you can find Matt. I'm at Hickey, Mike.
I'm at Smokes Indoors.
We are at 3MI Podcast, and you can find 3MIPodcast.com for shopping and shirts and silly things and old episodes and all that kind of stuff. Terry will hopefully be back soon with us, but in the meantime, you can drop him a line at Terry Ryan 20 or Terry Ryan 2020. 2020 is Instagram. And 20 everywhere else. But until next time, thanks for tuning in, and we'll be back next week to shout out you a little bit more about hockey. Thanks for tuning in.
You hang around with the worst crowd, the worst crowd, the worst crowd.